call this meeting to order. Will you all please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Patty, would you please take roll?
Mayor Woods.
Here, ma'am.
Vice Mayor Marino.
Present.
Vice Mayor Pro Tem Litt.
Here.
Councilmember Marciano.
Here.
Councilmember Reed.
Here.
All right, I'm going to do one thing out of order tonight.
That's all? Oh, dear.
No, that's not all, but I'm going to do something. I'm going to stand up. Would you everybody stand up for me, please? Maria Marino. Not only will you, I'm sure, bring the whole North County into the future, but we couldn't be happier and more proud for you to represent Palm Beach Gardens at the county commission level. And we know it's a big piece of pie, and I single-handedly won that for you. So did a lot of campaigning.
Thank you.
All right. Well done. Thank you. Okay, so additions, deletion, modifications, are there any of that tonight?
No, sir.
Announcement presentations, are there any announcements, presentations this evening?
No, not tonight.
Right on. Meeting adjourned. Comments from the public? I do not have any comments cards. City manager report, Ron. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. I do have a number of items to bring to your attention this evening. One is an invitation to you. You know, our tennis center facility is nearly complete, and the council has been given a date of October 1 to do an official ribbon cutting. But staff would like to invite you out individually for a personal tour between now and October 1st. You'll be getting a phone call from Charlotte Przezinski, our Leisure Services Director, trying to set a schedule for those of you that want to tour the facility before October 1st, so you can be expecting that. It is a fantastic facility. We look forward to opening up so that the public can take advantage of it. Its staff is very excited about it, and I know that once you get inside and see it, it not only looks beautiful from the outside, but it's pretty exciting from the inside too, particularly when you've been living in trailers for a couple of years and operating out. So staff's very excited about that, and you'll get your invitation shortly. In addition to that, I'd like to call at this time Casey Mitchell, our Director of Golf, to announce this year's Mayor's Veterans Golf Tournament. To the podium, please, Casey.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, Casey Mitchell, Director of Golf, and I'm here tonight to present the Mayor's Veterans Golf Classic. This year is our 14th annual Mayor's Veterans Golf Classic. So the tournament began in 2006 with 100% of the proceeds that we raise over the course of the 2 days benefiting the VA Resource Center. Over the course of the last 13 years, the city has raised $270,000 for the VA Resource Center. They provide a number of inpatient and outpatient services, clothing, transportation, mental health services to our local homeless and indigent veterans. So this year we are doing something a little different. We are going to have the original Mayor's Veterans Golf Classic Saturday morning. Normally it's 8:30. It will be in a 9 o'clock shotgun. And in the afternoon, we're going to have two different 9-hole events. We're going to have our typical ladies 9 wine and dine, and this year we're going to have a mixed grip it, rip it, and sip it. And so it's at 2:30. Both of those events will be 9 holes, and in between, when the players from the morning come off the course before the players in the afternoon go out, we're going to have our silent auction and raffles. So the ways that we fundraise, our event registrations are a big part of that. So getting the word out is extremely important. We're a couple of months behind due to COVID. We normally would have started this process in March. Event sponsors, our silent auction, our raffle, and then the events that are that take place the day of. So the closest to the pin, long putt, and our hole-in-one contest. Some of the challenges, obviously, that we face this year with COVID and the pandemic, the VA Resource Center runs solely on donations. They are not government funded. So they have taken a tremendous impact. There's been a tremendous impact on them due to COVID-19. We've also seen that we feel like we're going to face some challenges with our local businesses and their inability to either contribute monetary donations or in-kind donations or even participate. So we're asking for a little bit of help this year more than ever with the sponsorship opportunities, which is listed above. We have presenting albatross, eagle, birdie, hole-in-one sponsors, or putting green sponsors, and driving range sponsors. So we have added some additional layers there to help. So if somebody can't donate $100 or $150, they can still do a sponsorship for $50 this year. There is nothing that is too small this year to help. We also have breakfast sponsors, lunch sponsors, and this year with the 2 9-holes, we're going to do a nice dinner. So we'll need a dinner sponsor and then several beverage sponsors for, as Marcy calls it, swing juice. So again, registration, getting the word out for players to participate in either the event in the morning, which is an 18-hole event open to both men and women, or in the afternoon events. The ladies' 9 Wine and Dine is only ladies, but the mixed Grip It, Rip It, and Sip It this year will be men and women. And then the community can also assist with silent auction items. Some of the items that go for the larger dollar amounts are going to be golf courses, rounds of golf to our local courses. This year, we're even reaching out as far as Massachusetts. So we're trying to put stay and play packages together. There will be something in Tallahassee, go Knowles. There will be several hotel stays and a couple rounds of golf for foursomes. So there will be a couple of destination packages for anybody that wants to travel as well. Raffle items, anything that we can put in players' gift bags, and then volunteering for the event is going to be very important this year. With the 3 events all happening on the same day, there's going to be a lot to manage. So if anybody has time the day of, it's going to be November 7th. And I just want to thank you all for your support over the years, and city administration for starting this event and then allowing us to carry the torch forward. So hopefully this year we will be able to fulfill our commitment to the VA and still be able to fundraise a good amount for them this year. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Anybody have any questions? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, since I won't be an elected official on November 7th, technically, I would still be happy to do Beat the Pro if you would have me.
Wonderful. We would love to have you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes.
Rochelle, any comments?
Oh, good.
You good, Chelsea?
Thanks, Casey.
Thank you.
I would love to volunteer for
Oh,
the day.
great. Thank you.
Mark?
Can we play 27 or we have to take it?
Absolutely. We're counting on it.
All right.
Yes, we're counting
We're
on
gonna
a
play
lot
all
of the
day.
morning
Just
groups
gonna keep
to make
going.
the turn and keep going.
That means I'm playing 36? Oh, my God.
I'll do the sipping part, and I'll be there for you guys at the end. Yeah.
All right, well, I had a little bit different view because I was kind of worried about where we're going to get the money to help our local veterans, and I've already started putting things out, and I've asked some friends in Miami who, one of my buddies, Albert, he lives in Miami, and he was just up, and he played in the kids tournament, and I think his son was something like, he won something. He's the one that left 3 umbrellas over there. Ring a bell, Albert? Never mind. So I'm asking my friends to come up already, and I said, as soon as I get the flyer, I'm going to start posting it.
Okay, great.
But I also
What's
had a
the
thought
date
on,
of it? What's the date? Casey didn't mention the
It's
date. What's on the
Saturday,
flyer?
November 7th, I believe we
Yes,
have.
that's the date.
Yep, November 7th.
Thanks.
okay, so what I was thinking about, and I was listening to Casey's concern about a possibility of raising less money, and you all know I'm a veteran myself, so I brought it up in my agenda review, and I asked Ron and Alan you all know was in there, if there was any way we could possibly find $5,000 to contribute. And, they looked into it for me, and they were informed that they do have funds available for a line item for this purpose. So obviously, I need to bring it up here and discuss it with council and see if there's a way that we can ask the city to contribute $5,000 for our veterans.
Do we need to make a motion? I'll make a motion that we donate 5,000. I believe we have a line item for this, so I
Yeah, we do.
will make a motion that we donate $5,000 to
Any
get the
second?
ball rolling.
Second. Love to.
Okay. Chelsea, second?
Yep, yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
that, Ron.
Thank
That
you,
makes me-
council.
That makes me feel great. I'm sure everybody, and who knows how far 5,000 will go with the
Thank
veteran.
you. This year it'll go very far.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. I appreciate it.
So, next is the consent agenda. Anybody pulling anything off the consent agenda? If so, let me know.
Okay,
I'm going to pull O.
You're pulling O?
Yes.
Okay, anything else?
I'm going to pull K, please.
Okay, so we'll start with O, and I guess we'll just go with, Patty, could you read the title on O, please?
No, we move.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda minus items K and O.
I will second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Patty, can you go start with O, please?
Rochelle, you said O, right?
O, as in
Yeah, the
Oscar.
19th Amendment.
Good. I was going to do the same thing. Congratulations.
I'm sorry, but the 19th, the proclamation for the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment is P, not O.
B?
P.
Oh, did it change on? It was O originally.
That's okay.
I guess it changed when we put in number 59. Okay, sorry, I'm going to pull P.
Yes, we just needed an alternate motion then to approve the consent agenda with K and P without K and P.
I'll make an alternate motion to accept the consent agenda minus K and P.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Second.
I'll second.
Chelsea will
Second.
second. We got it all in favor, and now Patty, can we start with P, please?
Aye.
Thank you.
I don't read anything that's a proclamation. I believe Chelsea's going to read it.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Rochelle is going to read it.
Okay.
Going alphabetically?
Rochelle, are you reading it?
Okay, yeah, because it's election season and our right to vote should not be taken for granted, and all who are eligible to vote should be encouraged to do so. And because September 2020 marks the 100th anniversary of women being granted the right to vote, and because so many brave Floridian women fought for that right, I wanted to pull it and actually read the proclamation on behalf of the city. So City of Palm Beach Gardens, Palm Beach County, Florida proclamation. Whereas the year 2020 marks the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution, guaranteeing and protecting women's right to vote. And whereas the centennial offers an opportunity to commemorate a milestone of democracy, that the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the federal or state governments on account of sex. And whereas we honor the women who led this movement, whose stories must not be lost to history. Florida's Ellis C. Chamberlain, Tampa, 1892, began women's suffrage movement in Florida. Mary A. Nolan, Jacksonville, who picketed the White House in 1917, the oldest suffrage prisoner and Night of Terror survivor. And Julia Harrison Norris from Tampa, chair of the NAWSA's Legislative Committee. And whereas Florida holds a special place in women's suffrage history, as thousands of Florida women advocated for the right to vote on the streets, in the newspapers, in the state capitol, and throughout this great state. And now therefore be it resolved that Carl W. Woods, Mayor of Palm Beach Gardens, hereby commemorates the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution, and reaffirms our desire to continue to strengthen democratic participation and inspire future generations to cherish and preserve the historic precedent established under the 19th Amendment.
Very nice. You even got my name right. Okay, so P is completed, and Patty, will you read K?
Resolution 58, 2020, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, approving and ratifying the collective bargaining agreement with the Service Employees International Union, SEIU, Florida Public Services Union, FPSU, for fiscal years 2020, 2021, 2021, 2022, and 2022, 2023, authorizing the mayor and city manager to execute said agreement, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
We have a presentation.
Chelsea, why'd you pull it?
I am happy to speak. Is that okay?
Go ahead, Chelsea.
Thank you. So I wanted to pull this resolution to thank the SEIU and our staff here at Palm Beach Gardens. I actually spoke with a representative from the SEIU, and she reached out and wanted to give a special acknowledgement to Cheryl and on our staff who spoke with her. And when you read through the resolution, it's actually really impactful because COVID did not come into the conversation. It was so well planned out. So the agreement allows our city to provide a 3.2 increase in salary across the board, with a 6% increase each year in the contract across the board, also with salary adjustments. We've increased their health care coverage, legal benefits, and much more. Now, for example, if you look at another city in our county, like Delray, they actually took a 3% cut in their salary and a 2% increase in health care insurance costs. Because we have so well navigated COVID here in our city, as far as fiscal planning, it hasn't been transferred to our employees that are represented by the SEIU. And those people, in case you don't know SEIU and what all that means, those people are the ones who help us with our parks and grounds, streets and stormwater facilities, and fleet maintenance, the stuff we really count on for safety and emergencies. That's why it's important that this went well. So I wanted to thank our staff and the SEIU, and on the heels of Labor Day, it's especially impactful, and we owe a debt of gratitude for the rights of these workers around our country that have fought for this right. And this crisis this year has provided a spotlight on these workers and the dignity of their labor. So I wanted to say thank you.
Perfect. Two great ones to pull for a change.
Carl, can I make a quick comment?
Sure.
And thank you for pulling this because, sometimes we look at these things and we don't really think about how it impacts people. One of my longtime patients who I didn't realize was a city employee and actually is an SEIU member. I just happened to see him last week for his regular checkup, and he just said, so I just want to let you know that we're really grateful for the contract that you guys are going to see because it really helps me and my family and all the people that I work with. And I thought, that's nice, and it makes you feel good that you're not just looking out for the people that work in this building and the guys in uniform. They get a lot of credit too, but obviously it's the people that do the everyday work that's just as important. So thanks for bringing it up.
And it's good we pull some of these things that we can discuss that sometimes just go under the radar because they're on consent. So thanks for you two pulling those up. And because I was just going a little bit too fast and we were on the city manager's report, I didn't make eye contact with him to make sure that he was done. So
Technically,
motion
can
in a
everybody
second.
speak into their mics a little bit closer, please?
all right. So
Yes.
Much better.
Motion in a second.
Yeah, so we're going to make a motion in a second on,
I'll make a motion that we approve K and O.
I'll second.
it's P and K.
It was
P and K. It's P and K. I'll second
We'll
P
get it
and
right.
K.
KP duty.
Can I get a second? We get a second?
I'll
Yep,
second it,
second.
or I think Rochelle did.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion, all right, carry 5-0. Okay, so again, when we were on the city manager's report, I didn't look at him, so I think, Ron, you got some more things to do. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Kick off
At this
tonight.
time, I'd like to bring Fire Chief Keith Breyer to give a special message to the council about an event he'd like to report on.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. As you know, each quarter, Fire Rescue nominates an individual or crew for Call of the Quarter to recognize those who have gone above and beyond on an emergency call. And until now, this award has been reserved for fire rescue personnel. However, in light of a recent event, I have nominated one of our police officers, Officer David Joy, for Call of the Quarter. Officer Joy, can you join me? For the record, Chief Shannon's idea to surprise you. On Sunday, September 6, Officer Joy was first on scene in a car accident on Hood and Military Trail, where an unrestrained driver was ejected from his vehicle, amputating his right arm. On arrival, Officer Joy immediately began performing first aid to the patient, who was lying in a large pool of blood in the middle of Hood Road and screaming in pain. Without hesitation, Officer Joy quickly applied a life-saving tourniquet to stop any further blood loss and remained with the patient, reassuring him until fire rescue crews arrived. I had the opportunity to review Officer Joy's body camera footage and was amazed with the speed and proficiency in which he applied that tourniquet, in addition to his calm demeanor as he reassured the patient. Officer Joy's ability to think and perform under these extreme conditions are a direct result of his training, which ultimately saved this patient's life. I have to tell you that I don't know of any other police department whose officers are providing that same level of care that we are. But then again, we're not any other police department, are we? So with that being said, we would like to present Officer David Joy with call to order.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Clint Shannon, Chief of Police for the record. Just wanted to say, I was called and advised of this incident that occurred on Sunday, and couldn't have been prouder of Officer Joy. But as Chief Breyer said, our officers all wear body-worn cameras. When we reviewed the body-worn camera, the footage, we were absolutely blown away. The professionalism, Officer Joy was only a couple of blocks away when this accident happened, thank God. When he arrived on the scene, it looked like a staged training video. We could not have staged a training video better. With the vehicle overturned, extremely graphic scene, Officer Joy had a tourniquet in his hand before he left his car. Dispatch had advised him that there was a severed limb. The way he performed, he was impeccable. He directed traffic over the radio at the same time he was caring for this. He got civilians back. It literally could be a training video for any police department or for any tourniquet company. And we really wanted to thank and point out the tourniquets were donated to our police department by a combination of our police foundation and Mirasol's foundation. So all of our officers are extensively trained in the use of them, whether it's using it on themselves or on a victim, as Officer Joy did. But we could not be prouder. Officer Joy has been with our department almost 3 years. This is the way he performs every day. He's an Army veteran, and he is an outstanding employee. We could not be prouder of him. Along with the fire department, we certainly appreciate the fire department recognizing this incident. We also, from the police department, wanted to present Officer Joy with the life-saving certificate for this incident, and also with a ribbon he can wear on his uniform. This is one of the highest honors that we give in the police department. But in looking at it, undoubtedly he saved this man's life, who is still hospitalized. But we could not be prouder. It was an amazing incident, and Officer Joy performs that way every day. So thank you very much to Officer Joy.
Hang on, don't just stay right there.
Where you want it, Renata? Over here? On the back of the grass or?
Masks off or on?
Oh, wait, thumbs up, then, at least something, they know what's going on.
We'll pretend you're smiling.
And thank you very much.
Good job. Keep it up. It was just ironic, by chance, Officer Joy was scheduled to work the council meeting tonight far before this incident happened. So at the direction of Mr. Ferris, it was certainly a great surprise for him.
if I may continue. Tomorrow is Patriots Day, and we'll be flying our flags at half-mast. By joint resolution, Congress declared September the 11th as Patriot Day in observance of that fateful day on September the 11th. Tomorrow does mark the 19th anniversary of the attacks on America at the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and United Flight 93. So that we don't forget, I've invited Fire Chief James Ippolito and Police Major Paul Rogers to deliver an important message so that we will remember those who gave their lives that day and all those days after, and continuing to fight the war today. So if you would, please, gentlemen.
Mayor, Council, good evening. Major Paul Rogers for the record. 19 years ago, at 8:46 a.m. on September 11th, our nation was forever changed as foreign terrorists hijacked 4 commercial airliners loaded with passengers and fuel and intentionally flew them into the North and South Towers at the World Trade Center. This terrible act also was repeated at the Pentagon and then an empty field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. The impact of these jetliners instantly killed hundreds of innocent men, women, and children at the Pentagon and the World Trade Center. It also trapped hundreds more innocent people on the floors above the impact sites at the World Trade Center. As a result, first responders from NYPD, the FDNY, Port Authority Police, and multiple ambulance crews rushed to the scene to save lives.
Instantly and without hesitation, hundreds of firefighters and police officers ascended the emergency staircases of the World Trade Center to begin battling the inferno and begin to save lives. An unknown 9/11 survivor was quoted as saying, "As I descended the stairs, I made eye contact with one of the firemen on his way up. I will never forget the look in his eyes. But what stood out to me the most was I knew where I was going, and I was stumbling. He didn't know where he was going, and he didn't miss a damn step." And I thought that was magnificent. As we reflect on the 2,977 lives that were lost that day, may we also take pause in remembering the countless lives that were impacted by the loss of a loved one and the lingering physical, medical, and psychological effects suffered by those who survived.
Could we all please stand for a moment of silence? May we all never forget. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. And now, for a long-awaited announcement, at least from your staff. Effective September 21st, City Hall and the building department will open back up to the public. Our buildings will be open. We will follow COVID self-monitoring. Our self-monitoring stations will be set up at the entrances, and all who enter the building will be adhered to the established protocols that we've established by taking their temperature, wearing masks, and using hand sanitizers. Staff has talked this over. We have the process in place. We certainly have the willingness to open up to the public again, and we look forward to it. And so as of September 21st, we'll be open to the public once again. And it's been long waited, so we appreciate the opportunity to do that and look forward to having our public back into their building once again. So with that, that's all I have this evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
You know, it's August, and there's no meetings, there's no ribbon cuttings, there's no groundbreaking. What we do by Zoom. We don't hang out and get to spend time with each other and go to breakfasts and discuss city business and stuff like that. But you know, this first part of the meeting is probably one of the most important first parts of any meeting that I can remember. It's just all these things have happened while COVID's taken place, and it just goes to show what a great city we have. And you know, we all cry about 9/11, and I can't be more prouder of our police and fire, and those are our guys that are on the front line for us every day. So our public, as it moves through our community, even though they may not see you guys are there, and our first responders are there to save lives, and we prove it. So thank you very much for doing what you do, and unless my fellow council members have anything to say on that matter, we can move on.
I just encourage everyone to stop by the Fire Station 3 tomorrow and pay your respects. It's a solemn place to visit, and it's a great thing that we have it in our city.
All right, guys, you ready? So we're going to move on to public hearings. Yeah, I have that. I'm ready to go. Okay. So tonight we're holding quasi-judicial hearings on the following cases. Resolution 51-2020, Avenir FP&L Substation. Resolution 52-2020, Banyan Tree PUD Phase 2. And Resolution 53-2020, Site Plan Amendment to Avenir Residential Pod 2 and Site Plan 1. This means that the City Council is required by law to base its decision on the evidence contained in the records of this proceeding, which consists of the testimony at the hearing, the materials which are in the official file on this application, and any other document presented during this hearing. The Council is also required by law to allow cross-examination of any witness who will testify tonight. Cross-examination may occur after the staff and the applicant and other participants have made their presentations and will be permitted in the order of the witness's appearance. It is necessary that anyone who testifies at the hearing remain until the conclusion of the hearing in order to be able to respond to any questions. If you plan to testify this evening or wish to offer written comments, please fill out a card and give it to the city clerk right here. The city clerk will now swear in all persons who intend to offer testimony this evening on any of these cases. Thank you.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And so right now, we're going to start with Ordinance 7-2020. Patty, would you please read the title?
Yes, sir. Ordinance 7, 2020, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, adopting the budget for the City of Palm Beach Gardens for the fiscal year commencing October 1, 2020, and ending September 30, 2021, providing a conflicts clause and a severability clause, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
We're going to open the hearing. Staff presentation, please. Alan, would you do your thing?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr.
Thank you.
Mayor, members of the council. Alan Owens, Finance Administrator, for the record. And we are pleased to be here tonight for this first public hearing and the first reading of Ordinance 7, 2020, which would be the budget adoption for next fiscal year's budget. So with that, we'll take a quick look at the timeline going back to July 16th when Council set the maximum tentative millage at 5.55. The next day, on the 17th, detailed line item budgets were distributed to council, the Budget Oversight Committee, and also made available on the city's website. The Budget Oversight Review Board has been having their meetings, and on August 31st, finalized their report, which has been sent to council, and we'll talk about that towards the end of the presentation in a little bit more detail. That brings us to tonight, September 10th, which is the first required public hearing. 2 weeks from tonight, on the 24th, council will hold the second required public hearing. So jumping into some of the numbers, we'll first start out talking about the property valuation for next fiscal year. The total property valuation for next fiscal year is a little over $13 billion. That includes new construction of about $163 million. Excluding new construction, existing property went up about 2.3%. So that's an increase, including new construction, of about 3.6% over the current total for this current year of about $12.6 billion. The proposed millage rate, as I said, is 5.55, which is no change from the current year. That is a 2.3% increase over the rollback rate, which was calculates out at 5.4254. And again, the rollback rate is the rate that generates the same amount of tax revenue that is generated in the current year, excluding the dollars that are generated from new construction. So what we like to do is look at the effect of that proposed rate on three typical properties, both homesteaded and non-homesteaded. We'll start out with 3 homesteaded properties with assessed values that you can see, $250,000, $350,000, and $450,000. You can see that the proposed rate, the annual increases range from $32 to $57, and on a monthly basis, $2.66 to $4.75. And again, being a homesteaded property, this property, due to Save Our Homes Amendment, as you know, property cannot go up more than 3% or the prior year's CPI, which in this case, last year's was 2.3%. So all homesteaded property this year for the taxes purposes are capped at 2.3% increase. Looking at the same valuations if the property was non-homesteaded, assuming that these properties increased by that citywide average of 2.3%, you can see again the annual increases ranging from $32 to $57 and monthly increases from $2.66 to $4.75. One of the questions a lot of people wonder is how much of our tax bill that I pay to the city actually goes to the city. So based on the current total numbers that we receive from all the different taxing districts, what their proposed millages are, about 72 cents of every dollar that a taxpayer pays in the city goes to other taxing authorities like the county, the school board, healthcare district, and other various taxing districts. So that leaves about 28 cents out of that total dollar that actually comes to the city of Palm Beach Gardens. Looking at the actual numbers, the total revenues and sources for all funds total $182.7 million. You can see the various components of revenues here in the pie chart. Ad valorem taxes are the total single largest revenue at $69.2 million. Carryover fund balances from prior years total $54.7 million. Total expenditures and uses for all funds are balanced at $182.7 million. You can see the various pieces of the pie here. Make up expenses, personnel, $85.8 million. Operating capital, and our projected ending balance or reserve balance for all funds is $53.4 million. Taking a look now, focusing on the single largest fund in the city, general fund, total revenues and sources, $134.2 million. Again, you can see the various components of revenues, and all of the ad valorem taxes are accounted for in the general fund, so it's still $69.2 million in the general fund. Total projected carryover fund balance is about $36.9 million. And one of the biggest questions I'm sure a lot of people have is what are on the city's revenues, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. General fund expenditures and uses are balanced at $134.2 million. Again, you can see the various pieces that comprise expenditures. Again, $69.6 million in personnel comprise the largest percentage of total expenditures and uses. Our projected ending balance or reserves is $34.6 million. That breaks down to unassigned reserves, which we've been able to increase to $26 million. Budget stabilization reserves at about $5.2 million. $2.3 million in economic development we've been able to, through the budget process, to restore that to the previous balance prior to our unemployment relief fund and also our small business grant fund. And then I think it's about $1 million that makes up that total, rounds up to total of 34.6 for monies that are restricted for law enforcement purposes. So one of the questions, where is all this additional money, tax money that we're collecting next year go to? So when we look at balancing the budget, we have requirements, we'll call them uses of funds that we have to account for. We have increases in personnel and operating of $4.6 million. We had decreases in other revenues, primarily due to the COVID-19 situation of $1.1 million. And in the current year, we had a $2 million shortfall that had to be made up for when putting together next year's budget. So how did we balance it? The sources of funds, ad valorem taxes increased by $2.1 million. We had reductions of certain expenditures, capital debt and transfers of $3.4 million. So to balance next year's proposal, it's required a $2.2 million transfer out of the budget stabilization fund. But remember that $5.2 million that I mentioned earlier, that is after this reduction of $2.2 million. Some of the significant factors, as with all budgets, personnel and operating, again, this year is a little different. We had the COVID-19 situation. And we'll jump into each one of these areas and talk a little bit more about some of the major factors that affected personnel operating and the COVID-19. Talking first about personnel. Personnel costs are up, and this is in the general fund, $3.9 million. You can see the various components of personnel costs: salaries, retirement, health, life, dental insurance, workers' compensation. And some of the significant drivers of each of those components, we'll get into those here. As far as salaries, they total $46.6 million. That's up $2.5 million. The main drivers, sorry, I think something just flew into my mouth here, a gnat or something. No, I'm okay. I'll get a drink later, thanks. But the main drivers are the collective bargaining agreements that we have, PBA, IAFF, and the SEIU collective bargaining agreements. We also have a recent compensation study that was performed with regards to general non-bargaining employees, and we have market adjustments that are recommended that we're funding for next year. Another big item in personnel is pension. Total next year is about $10.8 million. We fully fund our total contributions per the police and fire actuary reports. Thank you, Natalie. And also per the statutory rates for FRS employees. The total is an increase of about $974,000 from the current year. Excuse me just one second. As far as the number of positions next year, we're recommending 7 additional positions. That would raise our total to 539. One of the interesting things to note, though, is we go back to prior to the big recession, going back to fiscal year 2007, we had a total employment count of 514 positions based upon the population at that time. That calculated out to about 10.4 positions per 1,000 population. If you look at the proposal for next year, 539 positions based upon the current population, that calculates out to 9.69. So we're actually on a population basis less than prior to the recession. As far as the new positions requested, the 7 positions, they break down as follows. We have 2 communication operators. Again, these are positions funded through the additional revenue that will be generated by adding the village of Tequesta to the North County Dispatch Center. So there's no cost, you could say, to the taxpayers. There's no general fund revenues being used to pay for those employees. We also have an administrative specialist in the legal department, 2 fire inspectors in the fire department, We're recommending to convert a part-time fire training instructor to full-time, and we have one business analyst in the IT department. Another big component of personnel cost are health, life insurance, FICA, workers' comp, unemployment. That total for all these expenses is $12.1 million. That's an increase of $405,000 over the current year. Taking a look now at one of the other factors, operating cost. As you know, we have a maintenance, repair, and operations plan where we project out multiple years what our needs are. That's fully funded for next year. Some of the highlights, we have $442,000 for various parks maintenance expenses, $357,800 for repairs and maintenance of various building facilities and structures, including roof maintenance, $173,000 for parking lot and sidewalk repairs, and $115,000 for roadway tree trimming and plant replacement. And we have $250,000 each for annual stormwater and canal dredging and maintenance programs. And the last big significant item, as I mentioned, the COVID-19 revenue impacts. So, as I said earlier, a lot of people wonder what is the impact on the revenues next year? Well, we go back, you look at the last fiscal year 2019, and you see the revenues collected that are being impacted. The revenues collected in that 2019 fiscal year, you can see the state sales tax, municipal revenue sharing, communication service tax, and electric franchise fees. We collected a total of about $13.4 million for those various revenues. Next year, we're budgeting a total of $12 million for those revenues. So you can see then that we're projecting a total loss on these various revenues of about $1.4 million. Subsequent to the issuance of the budget on July 17th, staff has been following very closely the estimates and things that are being information put out by the state, the Economic Demographic Research Department. After July 17th, late in July, they came out with some revised estimates. Looking at those estimates, we made a couple of minor tweaks to the revenues. Revenue sharing, we reduced by $25,000. Communication tax, we also reduced by $25,000, and we balanced that out by increasing a couple of building-related item permits by $25,000 and also engineering cost recovery. And as I'll talk about a little bit later, just based upon the trend the last few years, the building department revenues have consistently exceeded our projections, outpaced our projections. So we felt comfortable making these adjustments without making any net impact on the bottom line of the budget. One of the things we also do every year is we take a look at some of our neighboring cities and some other selected cities throughout the county and do a total cost comparison, looking not just at ad valorem taxes, but other fees and charges. We think that's important because there are certain fees and charges that other cities have that we don't have here in Palm Beach Gardens. For example, we don't charge for residential curbside garbage or trash collection. We do not have electric, water, or natural gas utility service tax. We don't, the city does not have a city stormwater assessment, nor do we have a city fire assessment fee. So that's important, as I said, because other cities have maybe a lower millage, but when you factor in a lot of other things, it makes us very favorable. And so in our example, we took a $350,000 assessed value property and made some assumptions as far as electric and or gas consumption, $2,400 a year, water usage, $780 a year, and communication services such as telephone, internet, cable TV charges, $3,600. So based on these assumptions, the way it works out is that you can see the City of Palm Beach Gardens, this resident would pay $1,665 in city taxes. Other ad valorem taxes total $4,400, and that would be, as I mentioned, there are other agencies, the county, school board, healthcare district, that make up that $4,400. We don't have, again, the utility tax. We have a very small communication service tax of 3.5%. Again, we don't charge separately or for solid waste collection, stormwater, or fire assessment. So this total, this individual would pay a total of $6,191. The next one down would be the city of Boca there at 6,251. But you can see all these other cities that we compare with have the utility taxes, some have solid waste collection, some have stormwater and fire assessment. And one thing I like to note is that you'll notice that several cities here have a very low city ad valorem rate. And that's because these cities are serviced by, they're members of the Palm Beach County Fire Rescue MSTU. So they can have a very low city rate, but if you look in the other ad valorem column, most of those are $1,000 more than in our particular case. And that's because those cities pay the MSTU rate for the fire, which next year is 3.4581. You'll notice that Jupiter is lower because they have a separate special rate, which is 1.8911. So overall, again, in this particular scenario, our total cost is less than any of these other cities. So moving on to some of the other funds, just some of the highlights. We have very special revenue funds. Golf Special Revenue Fund, you can see projected revenues exceed expenditures and a projected reserve balance of $201,000. We have a Recreation Special Revenue Fund. You can see the revenues are less than expenditures, and that difference is being made up next year with a transfer from the general fund. But I'd like to highlight within that recreation fund, the tennis operation generates about $1.7 million in revenues, and expenditures are about 1.49. So that fund actually generates positive cash flow of over $170,000, which helps to reduce that required transfer from the general fund. And the projected reserve balance for that fund is $186,000. We have a gas tax special revenue fund. You can see projected revenues, $920,000, and all the various expenses, which are the same types of things every year as far as the street and roadway maintenance, street lighting, various equipment, striping. We also have a reserve balance projected at about $48,000 in that fund next year. We have two internal service funds, the Fleet Maintenance Fund. You can see projected revenue and expenditures. And we are actually planning, there's a planned reduction use of some of the fund balance in that fund next year. Basically, with moving to the equipment leasing program, the fund does not need to have as much accumulation and fund balance to make outright large purchases. So this is planned, and it really helped next year as far as other departments' expenditures. Reserve balance is $54,000 in that fund. We also have a self-insured health fund. You can see revenues are a little bit less than the projected expenditures. And again, this is a planned reduction or use of some of the fund balance. The fund has maintained a very healthy fund balance, and the claim situation has modified from what it was a year and a half ago. And the projected reserve balance of almost $6.7 million equates to almost 9 months of projected claims. So that far exceeds any of the state's requirements, which I think is 90 days that they look for when you file the annual report with the state. So we far exceed what they look for. We have other funds, capital projects funds. These are our impact fee funds, mobility fee fund. You can see projected revenues for these funds total $3.5 million. We have one new project budgeted, appropriated next year, $1.3 million for improvements, campus drive improvements from RCA to PGA Boulevard. And again, you can see the description there. A couple of these items are right out of the Mobility Fund report. We have improvements include widening existing sidewalk to a 12-foot trail on the west side, adding a sidewalk and a two-way 10-foot bike trail on the east side, providing ladder crosswalks at RCA Boulevard, roundabout at Fairchild, and installation of a turn lane for northbound traffic turning east on PGA Boulevard. So this is where we get into, every year we do a 10-year financial forecast, but this year we'll talk a little bit about some historical results over the last few years and how that's impacted our current situation and what the ramifications and benefits of that position are with regards to our 10-year projection. But getting right into the 10-year projection, this chart shows the blue bars that will come in here budget stabilization fund, which starts out at about 5.2 million. It is projected to go to zero, but then as new development comes online, to be built back up to about 2.2 million by the end of the projection period. The green bars represent unassigned reserves, which start out at 26 million. Around 26, 27, it's projected to go down to about 24 million, but then built back up to 26 million by the end of the projection period. And the projected millage in this forecast, you can see, is projected to remain flat at 5.55 mils. So as I mentioned, we'll talk a little bit about some of the history too, and this really was a result of some discussion at one of our Budget Oversight Review Board meetings. The question was raised, if you go back 3 or 4 years and look at our projections for revenues and expenses in the 10-year forecast at that time, how do they compare to the actual results? So what we did, we went back to 2017 when we were preparing the 2017-18 budget. And the 2018 forecast, you'll see those numbers, the tan lines numbers here, bars for revenues, expenses, unassigned reserves, and budget stabilization reserves. In the orange bars, you can see the actual results for the revenues, expenses, the reserves. And then if you go back for that 3-year ago projection, the 2019 numbers, you can see the gold bars, what was projected to the revenues and expenses and the reserves. The green bars are the actual results for that year. And if you look at the 2020 forecast from 3 years ago, you can see those in the blue bars. And then our projections are reflected in the purple bars. And as I mentioned before, you notice the unassigned reserves and budget stabilization reserves are projected to increase, which is a good thing. So one of the things you'll notice is while expenses have been more than anticipated, revenues have also exceeded projections, resulting in those increased reserves going into fiscal year 2021. So we can try to analyze some of these results. On the revenue side, some of the reasons why you notice that the revenues have been consistently more than projections from 3 years ago. Well, as I mentioned, we've continued to see strong development that has continually exceeded our projections. 3 years ago, the projection we did not contemplate the annexations of Bay Hill, Preserve at Bay Hill, and Rustic Lakes. We had a one-time sale of property to Seacoast in fiscal year 19. That was about $900,000. And one of the biggest items in the current year, we've received to date about $1.8 million in unanticipated FEMA reimbursements. If you look at the expenditure side, some of the reasons why we had Hurricane Irma cost in fiscal year 2018 that could not have been anticipated. We had unplanned 12% increases for officers in August of 2018. If you remember, the sheriff office was actively recruiting our officers and throughout the county. We also had additional officers for annexed areas that were not contemplated, and we had collective bargaining contracts that had to be fulfilled. So as a conclusion you can draw from this analysis is as a result of the city's conservative revenue estimating policies, we've been able to offset any uncontrolled, unplanned expenditures, and actually at the same time increase reserves. Another analysis that really started last year in discussions with the Budget Oversight Review Board. Last year, one of the questions was, if you look at the current 10-year projection that we're working on, this was a year ago, and compare that to the prior year, how do the two look? And so we did that. We're carrying this over to this year too. So we'll go back and look at the projection from 2 years ago, and that's represented in the blue line here. That would have been the fiscal year 19 budget that was being worked on. And then the projection from last year in the orange line here, you can see the same pattern overall, starts out, but then the reserves go down and then built back up. And then if you lay in the current projection that we're working on, you can see, as I've mentioned, total reserves start out more. The same overall pattern, I guess you could say, but At the end, the future years, it does build up at a little bit slower rate. So if you analyze these results, again, the prior 2 years are very, very comparable in that the reserves are forecast to gradually decline, but then to build up. And both of the prior two projections were almost identical at around $30 million by 9/30/2028. And most of that's due to the future western growth at Avenir. And you also notice that the 20 beginning reserves were at greater than the 19 projections by about $2 million due to better anticipated operating results that year. And if you look at the current projection, again, as I said, the same overall trend, but the out years, there's a little bit slower uptick because what we've done is due to the uncertainty with COVID-19 and whatever impacts, if any, on property values, we've lowered our average growth over the 10-year period to about 2.5% from the average of about 3.5% that we had used in the last couple of years. Especially in the next couple of years, we've really lowered it. And that's because of the uncertainty with COVID. Nobody knows for sure what, if any, impact that's going to have. But after that, again, you see the same overall growth pattern, but because we've been able to increase reserves, we're almost where we thought we would be the last 2 years. So again, the conclusion I think that you can draw from this is the increased reserves over the last 2 years have better positioned the city to withstand lower assumed growth in property values. As I said, the overall trend for the current forecast is the same as the prior 2 years projections over the next 10 years, and that is that reserves gradually will be reduced as to service new growth as its demands of growth. But as the properties come on the tax rolls, then the reserves will be built up and replenished. Also, I mentioned the Budget Oversight Review Board. That report has been finalized and signed on August 31st. I sent a copy to council, and it's also available on the website. I just wanted to highlight some of the findings with respect to their charge to review the city's expenditure of 1 cent sales surtax. They found that basically the city is in compliance with all applicable ordinances, resolutions, state statutes, and they also note that staff has been efficient and thorough with respect to incurring such expenditures. With regard to their charge to review the budget document and the budget for next fiscal year, basically you can read what they say, but the bottom line is that they agree that keeping the millage rate static for this coming year is a prudent thing to do with the uncertainties surrounding COVID-19. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. So there were a couple of other items that I do want to note, though. And that is that while they were in agreement that a millage increase was not necessary, certain members felt that a reduction of the millage would have been in order, but for the uncertainty surrounding COVID-19. And the other item to note is that looking to the future, the members agreed that if the city's financial condition after COVID-19 remains strong, the city should explore millage reduction in fiscal year 21-22. If the property values and base continue to increase. And that's something that we look at every year. So, and we have no problem with that statement. And again, we would do that notwithstanding their report every year. So that really concludes the presentation. But we do have required action after council deliberates and has their discussion. We do have to have a couple of motions. And one would be that we recommend a motion that the city adopt a proposed operating and total millage rate of 5.55 mils, which is greater than the rollback rate of 5.4254 by 2.3%. And then we have the motion to approve Ordinance 7, 2020 on first reading, adopting a budget for fiscal year 2020-2021. And lastly, I would just like to recognize and thank all city departments, from department heads on down to managers, frontline people that are involved in the budget preparation process. It's not just the city finance department. Everybody, like I said, from the top on down, is responsible for this document. And we've been a team for so many years. It almost seems, I don't want to say easy, but it's a process that's become very efficient. And without all these people here behind me and listening, hopefully, or watching on Zoom land, would like to thank all of them because, and it's not just them filling out the forms and Mary goes to Mary and she compiles everything. There's a lot of collaboration that goes on with all departments to, analyze the CIP and the future projections of development and the impact fees and how that all meshes together. So there's a lot of cross collaboration with all departments. So I just wanted to thank everybody, all departments. With that, I think I've said enough. So be happy to entertain any questions.
All right, so right now, I'm going to double check with Patty that we do not have any cards on this. We do not. So I'm going to close the hearing. Can I get a motion and a second to approve?
How about making a motion to adopt? Alan, you want to put those slides back up so we can read it
Yeah,
properly?
Just the one.
That's right here.
We need that in writing next year. No. There it is, one on the right.
There you go.
Yep.
Okay, I would like to make a motion that we adopt the proposed operating and total millage rate of 5.5 mils, which is greater than the rollback rate of 5.425 by 2.3%.
I'll second.
You said 5.55 mils, correct?
Correct. Just as it says on the slide.
Okay, Rochelle.
I'll second it.
Understood. Rochelle has a second, so we'll bring it back for discussion. And Maria, we'll just start with you since you already got the ball rolling.
Okay. Well, first off, I'd like to say thank you very much to all of our staff and all of our departments for putting this together. Okay, bye. You've heard me say this before. The City of Palm Beach Gardens budget is truly, of all of the 39 municipalities in the county and the school board, it is truly the easiest budget to read and most comprehensive and truly explains where we spend money. And I appreciate all of the effort that you put into it. And Alan, of course, you didn't say this, but how many awards have you won for our budget?
I can't remember the total, but it's over 25 or so.
Oh, over 25, yes. So it is recognized by a lot of other people how well the budget is done in the City of Palm Beach Gardens. So accolades always for what you all do, but I also wanted to talk about a couple things. I made some notes because I always make notes. I do appreciate the fact that we have 26% of our reserve, 26% of our operating budget is in reserve. And this year was one of those reasons why it's important. Reserves are in place for a reason. They are for catastrophes or unforeseen viruses or pandemics. And the City of Palm Beach Gardens has been able to handle this in a very graceful manner. And not to mention by having the Economic Development Fund that we had and the ability to take $1.3 million out of that. And the fact that we can already replenish that fund says a lot for the way our city is run and is budgeted and planned. I also, I know we have our resident survey that is in the works, and it'll be interesting to see what the residents say about what is important to them and as we look to the future for that. And I appreciate the 10-year forecast. And while we don't have a crystal ball and wish we could, I think it's a very important tool for budgeting, not only for our homeowners, but also for the businesses that decide to invest in our city so that they can actually have a real good plan as to how they're going to budget their expenses while they're in the City of Palm Beach Gardens. So I appreciate that. And I know COVID is going to take more of a hit than I think we're all planning, just because if you look at the numbers for gas tax and bed tax and airport tax, which are some of those are county, but what finally gets delivered back to the city, and especially sales tax, and what are we going to do for retail? Natalie and I have spoken about that often. Retail needs to survive in our city because the top 5 taxpayers in our city happen to be retail centers. So it's important for us to be good partners with them. and I know we will do that in the future because that's what the city does. So I probably talked more than I had questions, but I just wanted to kick the ball off by saying thank you to all of you for putting together such a good budget. I believe we've made the right decision by keeping the millage rate flat. I hope that we can, I won't be here anymore, but I hope in the future that the future council can understand the importance of keeping the millage where it is. I know it is very tempting to lower the millage rate sometime just so that we can say we lowered the millage rate, but we don't need to be reckless to do in doing that. We need to really keep an eye on how we've budgeted so that our businesses and our residents really know what to expect in the future. And we are a service business, and our budget reflects the fact that we are a successful service business, and I thank all of you for that. That was long-winded. I apologize.
All right, well, thank you, Commissioner-elect Vice Mayor Maria Marino. Rochelle, how about you? You want to go second? Can we do that?
Rochelle?
Rochelle?
Okay. I will probably follow Maria's lead as the budget was prepared so well. There really weren't that many questions, but it did strike me this year with my full budget. It was a different experience going through the process at a time when so many were hurting so badly, and knowing that this is what our job is, to make sure that the city functions. And the one thing we are definitely hired to do is pass a budget. And so I do want to thank the city manager, staff, and my fellow council members for creating a financial culture for the city that's both responsive to the needs of our residents and fiscally sound. How a city is able to cope financially during difficult times says quite a bit about the management of that city. And also to Alan and staff and department heads for the hard work that went into creating a budget that even during a pandemic where the loss to the city is expected to be 1.4 million, it doesn't decrease services to our residents, and it doesn't raise taxes. We still maintain a healthy reserve. If anything, that the pandemic and the hurricanes, as Maria mentioned, taught us, a rainy day fund that is substantial is necessary to ensure that we can weather the storm, no pun intended. Once again, we're creating a healthy economic development fund for the future. Luckily, we had the ability to use 2.3 million of that fund this year to help our residents deal with some of the economic fallout from the pandemic. It's a forward-thinking budget. I think that's really important. It's providing for the growth of the city and the increase in services that are going to be required going forward. We're funding 7 new staff positions when others are laying people off. And we're upgrading both soft and hard infrastructure so that the city can function more efficiently for our residents and staff, as well as providing cost savings that will help carry us forward. Our maintenance needs are thought about in advance and provided for, and we're funding all of our current approved and anticipated collective bargaining agreements, keeping us in the top 3 in the county for them. So again, kudos to staff, manager, and fellow council members for carrying this culture forward. It's proud to work with you all.
Thank you, Rochelle. Well put. Chelsea, how about you? You ready to go?
Absolutely. So my first budget review, my first budget, blown away. Nothing like a budget I'd never seen before, and I was warned not to go through it line by line, but I did.
287?
Join the club.
We all do.
And I just want to thank the staff for answering my bajillion questions. So that was about it.
Bajillion questions?
Bajillion. That's an actual number, Alan, right? It's a number?
I had
Thank you.
100.
But I too support keeping it at 5.5. I think the businesses that are here, the citizens that are here, and the businesses that we want to have come here need that stability. There's not a lot of stability right now, and the fact that our city can offer something that's known in an unknown time is unparalleled. We need to be consistent and stable. It's already been successful. It's a successful strategy, So much so that the item I pulled off are negotiations with the SEIU. Because our budget is stable and projected out 10 years, we're able to retain amazing staff. So our staff retention rate for department heads is 17 years, and everyone else it's 11, except for us. We don't get to stick around as long as I think we all would want to, but I'm absolutely impressed. I didn't see any, wasteful spending, and transparency for the residents. It's been published and available. So I too support the 5.55.
Perfect. Mr. Marciano?
Well, I hate to be the dissenting voice, especially when everyone's getting along, but I'm going to have to continue to ask that all of you reconsider your support of the 5.55 millage rate, and I'm going to give you my reasons why. And I love all of you, so it's okay that you're going to not agree with me again, but that's okay, because I think it's important that someone talks about our city and how great it is and why we can support a lower millage rate. So for the past 9 years, I've been involved with the budget, 5 years on the Budget Review Committee when it was called that, 2 years as chair, now 4 years on the council. And for the second consecutive year, I'm going to oppose a proposed millage rate of 5.55 mils, despite the concerns of COVID-19 on the future revenues and economic activity in our city. I do want to thank the city staff, finance department, Alan, city manager, past council members. You've all done a tremendous job creating a city that has become the economic center of northern Palm Beach County, one of the most desirable places to live, work, learn, and play. Also, the conservative budgeting practices ensures that our city remains in an enviable budget position to have the luxury to entertain a millage reduction every year. Many municipalities cannot do that. Our economic future is strong. If one believes the recent report from the Realtors of Palm Beach County, recent home sales throughout our city and region, we have to be bullish about our economic future. Home builders in Alton, Avenir, they continue to build homes starting at the 600,000s with no real end in sight. Recent annexations, coupled with ongoing reports that people are moving out of the Northeast, even from the South, are looking to South Florida and in particular Palm Beach Gardens, because this is where people want to be, and it should give us confidence that our population growth will continue. Also considering the future of commercial real estate, which I know is a big question for me. I've talked to many people, and we continue to ask people, but although those concerns may linger in parts of the country, in state and county, the prospects of continued development in our economic centers remain strong. The recent sale of the Devassa Towers for $83 million, or $375 a square foot, is a record, meaning that there's a lot of support for commercial development in the core of our city. The redevelopment of downtown, the strong interest in our TOD, which we're going to be discussing tonight again, would suggest that commercial real estate in our city will remain in high demand. Looking at our past success in fiscal year 2019, our unassigned reserves was $23.7 million, now it's $26 million. Budget stabilization started at 2.37, now it's 5.2. We spent $1.118 million to accelerate capital improvement projects into this year's budget, which was perfectly acceptable. Our infrastructure is in excellent condition. Maintenance of our canals, roads, drainage are budgeted for years to come. We have stable contracts with SEIU, fire, police, and non-union city staff for the next 3 years. The 1 cent sales tax expenditures are on target to be completed on schedule with no need to use general funds to complete our projects. So if there's going to be a sales tax reduction in the county because of COVID, it's not going to impact our current and ongoing sales tax projects. We did get FEMA reimbursement, and I know it's an ongoing joke that you never know if you're going to get it, but we did. And thank you to the city staff, attorneys of the city to make sure that we were in a position to receive the dollars and to defend any audits. The 10-year projections suggest that we're going to dip into unassigned reserves in the next couple of years with an eye of replenishing these deficits in 2027. But our recent past and our conservative budgeting doesn't support this. As I've asked in the past, if this city cannot lower its millage rate at a time of such prosperity, who and when can? No question there are risks. The future of COVID, future hurricanes, economic uncertainties are always a concern, but we can weather the storm. And ultimately, what is the role of government? Yes, it is designed to provide services for its residents, but is it designed to run profits? As I listened today to the healthcare district's meeting and budget, one person said, we're not a Palm Beach Gardens bank, we're Palm Beach County Bank. A suggestion of a 5.50 millage rate equals approximately $800,000 to the overall revenues to the city. Although I believe we can do better, I'm comfortable with a small reduction in millage. And what would that effect have been in 2019? We would be in the same position we are now with a slight reduction in what we have in our budget stabilization fund. This reduction only equates to anywhere from $20 to $70 perhaps, or $60 per homeowner and business owner. But for some, this can be significant. I'm not worried about me, I'm not worried about those in some of our gated communities, but rather in talking to residents in our plats, our working families, those in vulnerable industries, they can use help. We went ahead and gave the help, and they can certainly do more. Food drives continue to be somewhat used in some parts of our city, and some homeowners are using these services. The overwhelming success of the public's gift cards to the residents in our city is suggestive that there is a need for additional help. We talk about affordable housing, workforce housing, essential service housing, whatever you want to call it, for some of our residents throughout the plats. This may not be a lot, but in some people, a $20 or $30 or $40 reduction, or $40, might mean a night's tips or work in the second job. So it's very easy to make it seem that COVID is going to cause a lot of uncertainty, and it certainly will. I'm not here to say it isn't. But there's no doubt that this city can support it. There's no doubt that this city is going to weather that storm. And I think all of us need to be aware that this city has put ourselves in a position to even have this conversation, and it's not easy to come up here and talk to all of you who are the staff who are supporting the 5.55 mils. But I'm going to stick to my principles, and I'm going to stick to my belief that we can do so. I'm going to make a substitute motion, which probably won't get a second, but I'm going to make a substitute motion to accept a 5.50 millage rate and make the necessary adjustments to projected revenues and ad valorem tax income and revenue expenditures.
Very well. Thank you, Mark. Good comments. I appreciate that. So I don't know if Ron or Alan really want me to bring this up, but I'm going to tell you, Mark, and Maria, and Chelsea, and Rochelle, and the public that actually started my homework on the budget months ago when I asked to have a meeting with...
Mayor, I don't mean, we need to declare that the motion died for lack of second before we move on.
Understood. Do I have a second on Mark's motion? I do not have a second, so that motion will die.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry, I did not pick up on that. So anyway, where I was, I started my homework on this months ago because when we did the relief fund for the community and the business, I sat down with Ron and Alan specifically, just those two, and I asked if there was a way we could do something more for the community, as you reflected in your comments, to see if we can find a path to reduce our millage rate to continue our COVID relief throughout our community. And I really wasn't prepared to say any of this because I was comfortable with Alan's presentation. I was comfortable with our 10-year forecast, and it wasn't because of you that I'm bringing it up. It just came to me. So we had a hard conversation. We went over our 10-year plan if we were to reduce our millage. I don't remember what it was. We went over the graphs, and it was more than one meeting. And I asked Alan to task himself to put a millage reduction into our plan. And I know you weren't prepared, I'm sorry, but I think our graph would have drastically changed to hundreds of thousands of dollars in the deficit, and our overall contribution back to the community would have been so slight, and our reduction in our deficit would have been so massive. Can you comment on that?
Yeah.
Sorry, Alan, you remember it probably better than I do.
If I recall, we would have been able to lower it to the 5.50 for 2 years, but then it would have to go up to 5.6 mils for several years before it could come back down to 5.55.
Yeah, and I know you don't remember now, but on the second reading, maybe you'll have the...
I actually have a graph that shows...
That we went over?
Well, it's just a graph. If this conversation did come up, if we want to, I could pull that up and show.
I would like you to, because they didn't know that I really we went over this, and we really tried to keep the COVID relief moving forward by a reduction in the millage. So if you have it, I'm sure everybody would appreciate.
Mr. Mayor, we've seen that slide in the past, but I'm happy to
Yeah.
look at it again, yeah.
Okay.
I had asked about that during my review as well, Carl, and we went over it also.
Okay,
Oh.
yeah, but this is going back
Eric,
like in June or July.
I actually have a PowerPoint at the end of that present. Huh? I can go, okay.
I'm jealous.
So, right, so this shows that if you were to lower it to 5.50, the impact on the budget stabilization, and then the unassigned reserves, but to achieve, and these look similar to the prior as far as the reserve situation, the totals, but to achieve that, what you'd have to do then is increase the millage to 5.6. It actually goes out to fiscal year 26. And then in fiscal year 27, as again, the more newer development comes online, the tax rolls in, it could be dropped back down to 5.55. So again, that reflects our conversation, Mr. Mayor, with Mr. Ferris and myself. And I just created this chart just in case there was some discussion that came up about it.
Thank you. And, you know, we just couldn't get a path to a reduction of the millage rate because we still have the COVID equations are still unknown on how it's going to impact our property values and so on. And just now that we're into the peak of hurricane season, once again, that equation is unknown. And the amount that we were going to save the community, I kind of want to say, you know, the means didn't outweigh the whatever. It just was overall total of a reduction of a given household didn't seem to be worth the possibility of if something happens with COVID or we get hit with a hurricane,
Right.
then we get into a position of do we lay off our first responders
Right.
to balance out some issues.
Do
So,
the benefits, you know, outweigh the risk involved? And there's so
Right.
much risk right now, so many unknowns that nobody knows what can happen. I agree with Mark right now. Maybe things look good as far as construction and commercial, but we don't know. And there's been a lot of people that have speculated that, you know, property values are going to be, especially commercial, impacted, and to what extent, nobody knows next year. We're lucky because in the next year's budget, as you know, is set by, as far as property values are, those values are established on January 1 of each year. So those values we're working with for next year were established on January 1, pre-COVID. January 1 of next year, when we get valuation numbers for the 21-22 budget, that's when there's been a lot of discussion about not just the state shared revenues, but property values. What's going to happen to those property values? And that's just, nobody here can answer that with any 100% certainty. So it's a risk, and it's not a risk that staff is willing to propose
yeah.
to you as council.
Yeah, and we really did the homework on this. And, you know, I kind of made you guys feel uncomfortable, but I think I had agreement from the city manager that we would look at it hard and see if we can keep some COVID relief going. And we still couldn't get there. And that happened in what month? Before we were even talking about budget review. May? I don't know.
Maybe.
June?
Yeah, it was
So,
several months ago, probably. Yeah.
you know, anyway, I am going to support the budget and stay the course for the security of our community and our staff, and so that's my feeling on it. Unless anybody else has anything.
Mr. Mayor, I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
It was my directions to Mr. Owen and my staff this year that I wanted a budget tax reduction. I wanted the millage rate to go down. They did the best that they could, and even with conversations with you, we showed you where we were at with our budget. We don't look back to our budget, to figure out what our budget's going to be. We look forward to see what our budget's going to be. The fact that you can lower taxes is not necessarily the prudent way to go, because eventually what comes down will have to go back up, as Alan has illustrated. And I understand politically it's probably a good thing to do, reduce taxes. I understand that. But from a financial standpoint, a professional management standpoint, to lower taxes when you know that you're going to have to raise taxes is not a prudent method to take. And from your professional manager standpoint, from those that deal with the finances on a daily basis and the management, we did not see it necessary to reduce services or reduce personnel in order to reduce the budget, as we discussed with you, as you saw. You were unwilling to take that risk as well as we were. So while I do advocate the reduction of a millage rate whenever we can possibly do it, guaranteed if we can make it work without reducing services or jeopardizing the health, safety, and welfare of this community, we will certainly do it. But until that time, we still stand by our recommendation with the budget that you have before you. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carries 4-1. Ordinance 8, 2020.
No, can you pull the slide back up so we
Oh,
can read the second
yep.
ordinance?
Second half.
Should have took a picture of it.
Oh, Rochelle,
Oh.
Chelsea, why don't you read it?
I just need my reading glasses. This happened like this week. I got it.
It was the blue one.
Ready? Okay. I move that staff recommends a motion that the City of Palm Beach Gardens adopt a proposed operating and total millage rate of 5.55
No, we need,
mil.
I'm sorry, no, we
Ordinance
need a
seven.
motion on the ordinance,
There-
the second part.
There we
All
go.
right, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 7, 2020 on first reading, adopting a budget for fiscal year 2020, 2021.
Second.
We already have a vote. Max, we need to revote.
No, you need to vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 4-1. All right. One,
Yeah, this is a much shorter one.
you want to take 5, anybody? All right, ordinance 8, 2020. Patty, would you please read the title?
Ordinance 8, 2020, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, approving a text amendment to the city's comprehensive land use plan in the future land use element, transportation element, conservation element, and capital improvements element to provide internal consistency within the city's comprehensive plan, mobility plan, and mobility fee, providing for transmittal to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity, DEO, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date and further purposes. Note to the public, there is a sign-in sheet at the front desk for anyone interested in receiving additional information from the Department of Economic Opportunity.
Okay, I'll open the hearing. Ordinance 8 and 9 were combined on presentation 1 at first reading. Does anybody, okay, so we'll wait for Chelsea. Do we 4 need another presentation?
There's no changes to the text.
No.
I don't need a presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Natalie Crowley, Director of Planning and Zoning. There are no changes for Ordinance 8 and Ordinance 9, which staff presented in a combined presentation on first reading. This ordinance was transmitted to the state, and so we have received the state's no comment letter. The partner petition is therefore also being brought simultaneously. Staff does, however, have a very abbreviated presentation for this evening, despite the fact that there are no changes, but we would like to do so after public comment. Thank you.
All right, so anybody wishing to speak on this? I do have one comment, Mr. Yep. And, sir, I'm going to make sure that we are going to stipulate that your comments are going to be for Ordinance 8 and 9 at this time.
They are together.
Just like we
Yes.
did last time, so we don't
Yes.
have to re-ask the
Yes.
question. All right, name and
Kashid
address.
Mahyuddin. Good evening, Kashid Mahyuddin, representing Palm Beach County.
And have you been sworn in?
No, this is not an
Oh,
item.
that's right.
Yes.
Sorry, I was off on the other one. Go ahead, sir.
720 South Sapodilla Avenue, apartment 405, West Palm Beach, Florida 33401. County's letter dated June 9 pretty much outlines our objection to both of these items. Therefore, I will be really short and just want to reiterate that these amendments to land development regulations and the comprehensive plan amendment are illegal attempts to repeal county's transportation concurrency, proportionate share, and the road impact fee. A municipality cannot unilaterally repeal these laws pursuant to county charter. Therefore, we request that you do not adopt these amendments today. Thanks again for opportunity to object.
Thank you, sir. Max, should we have Natalie now, or should I have her after we bring it back for discussion as a staff presentation? Now it's fine. Okay.
Okay, good evening. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I will be very brief. As I mentioned previously, this is the second reading of Ordinance 8 and 9 in a combined presentation. The subject request before you, or Ordinance 8, is the comprehensive plan text amendments, which you can see before your screen to various elements within the comprehensive plan. And then the sister petition is the land development component, which is the text regulations. All of these amendments combined are related to the city's transportation and mobility plan, mobility fee, and they provide for internal consistency with the city's comprehensive plan. I do really want to take a moment to recognize the city's consultants that have worked very closely with staff. Jonathan Paul joins us via Zoom this evening. He's with New Urban Concepts, along with Andrea Troutman with Pinder Troutman Consultants. I do really also would like to recognize the hard work of Joanne Scaria and Don Sonneborn, who put in literally hundreds of hours on both of these petitions. So I'd like to really acknowledge their hard work that they put into these petitions. And really, it's important to just go back to the background in 2016, where Ordinance 8 in 2016 established the legal framework that set forth the city's goal to adopt a mobility plan and a mobility fee. If you pay close attention to policy 21114, you can see the language before you that is very clearly spelled out what the city seeks to do, referring to repealing and replacing Palm Beach County concurrency, prop share, road impact fees, and mobility fees. And I also want to really emphasize policy 2118, which said, should the city council elect to adopt a mobility plan and fee, the city, within 1 year of adoption of the implementing ordinance, shall update the transportation, mobility, and capital improvements element of the comprehensive plan to reflect the repeal and replacement of transportation concurrency, prop share, road impact fees, and update the policies related to the level of service, quality of service standards, complete streets, capacity determinations, backlog facilities, transportation and/or multimodal impact assessments, associated multimodal policies, and other elements addressed in the mobility plan. So forgive me for reading that verbatim, but it is important to get it on record that this policy was adopted in 2016. I do want to also point out that in 2016, Ordinance 8, which established our intent for the mobility plan and the mobility fee, and just included the policies that I just read to you verbatim, included the full coordination with Palm Beach County. It was done with the state coordinated planning process, along with the interlocal planning process that we have with Palm Beach County. This was specifically notified to Palm Beach County, transmitted to all state agencies, including DOT and Palm Beach County. It subsequently was sent to the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, where it was voted on unanimously, including all of those commissioners who sat there that day from Palm Beach County and voted for the city's comprehensive plan amendments. In 2016, DEO did issue its notice of intent that our ordinance, Ordinance 8, 2016, was in compliance with state law. Subsequent to that, the city moved forward with its adoption, of course, of its mobility plan and fee. And it was done so with an extensive amount of coordination with the business community, the residents, and also Palm Beach County was invited to the table several times. This is the adoption of the mobility plan, and this is the adoption of the mobility fee, Ordinance 16 and Ordinance 19, 2019. As Mr. Khurshid Mohammed submit a letter objecting to this particular comp plan amendments, which was required as part of the adoption of our mobility plan and fee. So this is the letter that he was referring to. Just as a reminder or refresher, this did go before the Planning and Zoning Board, both items, and they were voted on by a vote of 7-0. The City Council approved Ordinance 8 and Ordinance 9 on first reading at the July 16th, 2020 City Council meeting by a vote of 7-0. And this was then transmitted to DEO and other agencies. And the city received no formal comments from any state reviewing agencies, and DEO issued its no comment letter on the proposed amendment. Staff continues to recommend approval of Ordinance 8 and 9 on second and final reading, and we are happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Okay, I'll go first on this one because the county's liaison, I wish I would know how to pronounce your name properly, said something to the effect that we are trying to unilaterally rewrite the county's ordinance. And I'm not trying to misquote what he's saying. But am I close to what you said, sir? Yes. Okay, good enough. So Natalie, how are we trying to rewrite the county's ordinance, or are we not paralleling the state law, and is that not giving us the direction that we're going? How are we trying to unilaterally rewrite the county's ordinance, or are we just trying to?
We are doing no such thing, but I do defer to our city attorney to answer that legal question.
All we've done is merely adopt a mobility fee in accordance with the authority granted to us under 163.3180. It has the effect of eliminating traffic concurrency within the city of Palm Beach Gardens, as we are specifically empowered to do under state law. And as far as the rest of the county's assertions, I don't feel it necessary to get into that or address them this evening.
So I'll address the county liaison that the city is not trying to unilaterally, so it's on record that we have nothing to do with your ordinance or the city. So we're just going about our business. So I appreciate your comments. Sir, who would like to go next?
I have no comment. We've already went through this, so I'm comfortable with our position, yeah.
Rochelle, you good? Where are you? There you are. You're in a different hole.
I have no comment.
Chelsea,
No comment.
So do we need to make a motion and approve these separately, correct?
Correct, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I make a motion that we approve Ordinance 8, 2020 on second reading.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
I'll make a motion that we approve Ordinance 9 on second reading.
Rochelle, let me double check and make sure we don't need to read Ordinance 9, 2020?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay, so stand by one.
Oh, we haven't read it? Okay.
This is the long one, I think, right?
Okay.
So
Oh, that's the tape one.
this is
okay.
the 8-minute one, so take a break.
Everybody is relaxed.
Ordinance 9, 2020, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, amending Chapter 78 Land Development Regulations at Section 78-44, Concurrent Processing, by adopting new subsection B1D, further amending Chapter 78 at Section 78-46, Application Procedures, by repealing subsection D1F and E4A and readopting same as revised, and by amending subsections E7 and E7F, further amending Chapter 78 at Section 78-52, Conditional Uses, by repealing subsections D4A and D4C and readopting same as revised, further amending Chapter 78 at Section 78-61, effective period of development orders and enforcement of conditions, by repealing subsections C3, C4, C5, D, G, 2A, G2B, G2C, and readopting same as revised. Further amending Chapter 78 at Section 78-75, adopted levels of service, by repealing subsections A and readopting same as revised. Further amending Chapter 78 at Section 78-80, required application material, by repealing subsections A, A3A, and A10, and readopting same as revised. Further amending Chapter 78 at Section 78-86, Proportionate Fair Share Program, by repealing the title and readopting same as revised. By repealing subsections A, B, and C, and readopting same as revised. By repealing subsections C1, C2, C3, C4, and subsections D through I in their entirety. Further amending Chapter 78 at Section 78-159, permitted uses, minor and major conditional uses, and prohibited uses, by repealing subsection F and subsection J at notes 44.1F, 44.2F, 49A, 57G6, and readopting same as revised. Further amending Chapter 78 at Article 5, Supplementary District Regulations at Division 11, Traffic Performance Standards, by repealing the title and readopting same as revised. Further amending Chapter 78 at Section 78-611, Intent, by repealing Section 78-611 and readopting same as revised. Further amending Chapter 78 at Section 78-612, Applicability, by repealing subsection A and readopting same as revised. By repealing subsections B1, B2, B3, and readopting same as revised. By repealing subsection B4 in its entirety, by repealing subsections C1, C2, and C3, and readopting same as revised. Further amending Chapter 78 at Section 78-621, Established, by repealing subsections A and B and readopting same as revised. Further amending Chapter 78 at Section 78-622, Level of Service Standards, by repealing Table 44 with notes and readopting same as revised. By adopting new Table 44A with note. Further amending Chapter 78 at Section 78-623, Link Standard, by repealing subsections A and B and readopting same as revised. Further amending Chapter 78 at Section 78-624, Intersection Standard, by repealing subsections A and B and readopting same as revised. By repealing subsection C in its entirety. Further amending Chapter 78 at Section 78-625, Radius of Development Influence, by repealing Section 78-625 and readopting same as revised. Further amending Chapter 78 at Section 78-626, Phasing, by repealing Section 78-626 and readopting same as revised. By repealing subsections C, D, and E and readopting same as revised. Further amending Chapter 78 at Section 78-627, Reliance on Committed Roadway Improvements, by repealing the title and readopting same as revised. By repealing subsections A, B, B1, and B2 and readopting same as revised. Further amending Chapter 78 at Subdivision 3, Traffic Impact Studies, by repealing the title and readopting same as revised. Further amending Chapter 78 at Section 78-641, Submission Required for Development Approval, by repealing Section 78-641 and readopting same as revised. Further amending Chapter 78 at Section 78-642, Scope, by repealing Section 78-642 and readopting same as revised, by repealing subsections A, B, and C and readopting same as revised. Further amending Chapter 78 at Section 78-643, methodology, by repealing subsections A, B, D, E, F, F2, G1, H1, H2, J1, J2, J3, K, L, L2, and M, and readopting same as revised. Further amending Chapter 78 at Section 78-644, site-related improvements, by repealing Section 78-644 and readopting same with a new title and as revised. Further amending Chapter 78 at Section 78-751, definitions, by repealing the definitions for average annual daily traffic, committed roadway improvements, concurrency, existing peak hour traffic, existing traffic, historical traffic growth table, performance surety, radius of development influence, road agreement, and total traffic, and readopting same as revised. By repealing the definitions for major project map, and off-peak season in their entirety, and by adopting new definitions for multimodal, quality of service standard, and peak hour directional traffic volume, provided that each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 78, land development, shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date and further purposes.
Yeah. Ta-da! Good job, Patty!
How many times did it take you to get that right? Kind of like our state of the city. Take 27.
Oh, come on, we did better than that.
Not really.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. All right, so Rochelle, I got to open the hearing on this. No, we've already stipulated that the county liaisons' comments will carry over to ordinance 9/2020. Close the hearing. Can I get a motion and second to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Rochelle, you're on mute.
Got it. Okay, I was off my mute thing. I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 9/2020 on second reading.
Have a second, please?
Second.
Okay, we got a whole bunch of seconds. We'll go with Maria.
No comment. Let's go.
Well, you took a second, so bring it back for discussion. Any discussion?
No.
No discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Ordinance 10/2020. Patty, would you read the title on that one?
Ordinance 10, 2020, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, approving city-initiated text amendments to the future land use element of the city's comprehensive plan to incorporate a transit-oriented development TOD objective and TOD policies based on the recommendations included in the city's TOD master plan, prepared by Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, providing for transmittal to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity, DEO, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date and further purposes. Note to the public, there is a sign-in sheet at the front desk for anyone interested in receiving additional information from the Department of Economic Opportunity.
Thank you. We're open hearing, and we do have a staff presentation from Joanne. Thank you. Oh, Dawn, sorry. I was looking down.
Thank you. Good evening, Dawn Sonneborn with Planning and Zoning. Joanne Scaria and myself have both worked on this as well as a lot of our senior planning staff. It's a lot of work, but exciting work, and we're excited to see it finally coming to implementation. So this is Ordinance 10/2020, Comprehensive Plan Amendments for our TOD. It's a city-initiated text amendment to the future land use element. We're adding a new objective and associated policies that will, it's based on the strategies and recommendations of the city's TOD master plan that was prepared by the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. And the city has a long background of supporting a train station here in the city. It goes back to 1998 with Resolution 39, where the City Council supported double tracking of the FEC Railroad in a northward direction. And then in 2008, the city initiated comp plan text amendments, included many updated policies and new policies related to transit-oriented development. We had the pleasure of working with the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council back in 2009 when they created the Citizens Master Plan for transit-oriented development. That had a lot of public workshop and public involvement. And again, we had the pleasure of working with the Treasure Coast. We were awarded a grant in 2017 and had our most recent TOD master plan process that began. And that as well had a lot of public involvement.
My dad.
That was presented to the City Council back in November of 2017. That was at a draft stage. And then in June 7th of 2018, we presented the final draft of the TOD master plan. And most importantly, we got the council directive to move forward with the next steps of preparing the LDR amendments, and the comp plan amendments is where we are today. And just a refresh from everybody, this is a 2008 TOD master plan. This is the station location, and the TOD area is 1/2 mile radius around that station location. And some of the TOD design concepts that are in that master plan. That's another one. And just a background, the update on Brightline. The city is on the map, which is very exciting. It is just a concept right now, but we definitely are on the map for Brightline for a possible future train station here in our city. And now I want to turn it over to Joanne, and she'll go through some of the text amendments for you.
Good evening, council members. My name is Joanne Scaria with the Planning and Zoning Department, and I'll be presenting the content of Ordinance 10, 2020. And as Don explained, TOD has been a strategy of the city that has been supported for many years, and so the proposed amendments are being located under an existing future land use goal in the city's comprehensive plan, Goal 1.3. And so the amendments include a new objective, which is highlighted on your screen, to establish the Palm Beach Gardens TOD district, and which describes the district and properties within 1/2 mile of the proposed light or rail transit station shall meet development and design standards that provide sufficient densities, intensities, and a mix of uses that will support transit and mobility options, as well as creating a lively and vibrant community. What follows this objective is about 16 policies that highlight some of the key strategies in TOD districts. And so I'll go over not every policy in verbatim, but some of the key highlights. And so the amendments include new policy 1.3.9.3, which lists the current project names within the proposed TOD district. And you'll see before you a slide that shows some of those, all of those projects within the 1/2 mile radius. So the amendments include a policy for adopting land development regulations in the future to implement the TOD policies, residential density bonuses based on a menu of incentive strategies such as workforce housing, AIPP, LEED or environmentally friendly design, and active ground floor uses, a maximum height provision for non-residential buildings of 9 stories or 135 feet, development and design standards and incentives such as a mix of land uses, interconnected street network and shorter blocks, increased tree canopy and shade trees, public plazas and expedited permitting, and a modification to existing policy to cross-reference the new objective and policies. So staff wanted to share some of the analysis that we did when we arrived at the various density policies and bonus provisions that we have provided. So the new policy 1.3.9.4 encourages a minimum gross density of 15 dwelling units per acre with opportunities for additional density bonuses for all policies within 1/2 mile radius of the planned station location. And the current policy that allows a bonus of 3 dwelling units per acre within MXD areas or within 1/4 mile of planned transit or rail, this is now going to be superseded by the new TOD policies. And we want to share some images of projects that are existing in the city or have been recently approved that are in line with the proposed densities that staff is proposing in the proposed amendments. Moving on to staff's analysis of the proposed height provision, there was a height visioning workshop in 2006. And staff analyzed existing heights of buildings all throughout the city. And all of these buildings are in line with the city's proposed amendments within the TOD district. So we want to share some photos of some of these projects. The new DeVosta Towers, which was mentioned previously in the meeting, as well as existing Gardens Plaza, Marriott Financial Center. And then, of course, within our own TOD district that we're proposing tonight, the Lifetime Fitness Building and the FPL Office Building, which were recently approved and under construction currently. We have received numerous letters of support for this project, including from the Palm Beach TPA, Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, Palm Beach North Chamber of Commerce, PJ Corridor Association, and the South Florida Regional Transportation Authority. This petition has been publicly noticed in accordance with City Code. And so the next steps would be the expedited state review process to transmit to DEO and other reviewing agencies. Second reading, which is anticipated in November, and staff is currently working on the land development regulations to accompany these TOD policies in the comprehensive plan. So with that, the PZAB recommended approval with the vote of 7-0 at their August meeting, and staff is also recommending approval as presented on first reading.
I do not have any cards on this, so I'm going to close the hearing. Can I get a motion and a second to approve?
I'll make a motion to accept ordinance 10, 2020 on first reading.
I'll second the motion.
And Maria's got the second. We have discussion on this issue? Probably lots.
You know, I don't have a lot. I asked the questions. Staff is well prepared. This is all part of the master plan for the city, right? This is not something that we are doing willy-nilly. If you're going to try to have a TOD, and you have to have a strong mobility plan, and if you're going to have a mobility plan, then you have to have a strong TOD. This is just making sure that you have all of the components in place to make sure that the plan for the city's future is there. My only question was about the bonuses for workforce housing. I'm glad that's a big part of what we're talking about, but it does not allow us to have any additional height. And Joanne, I think you clarified that for me at my agenda review the other day, that even though there will be density bonuses, the 9-story height is what it's going to be, right? Okay. So no, I have no other comments. Thank you.
Anybody else?
No.
Okay.
I'll make a comment.
Go ahead.
Never short on making a comment. Successful cities are not static. They change, and that's what keeps them vibrant. All of these policies, plans, and programs contribute to a viable and successful TOD area, and I'm so glad that we are finally getting to officially codify the district. So as the development does change and as redevelopment in these areas occurs, the residents shouldn't be surprised that they are going to see a more dense urban core to the city. It's clearly defined. It's within reason. It's a proactive plan for the future, just like our budget. Adding the workforce housing benefits as well, that's necessary. I'm also happy to see the sustainability incentives as part of this, as we are now seeing sustainability reviews in all of the projects that are coming before us. So, I'm happy to approve this at this time. I think it's a step in the right direction.
Rochelle? I'm sorry, Chelsea.
I'll echo Rochelle. I'm extraordinarily happy to see this. This is some of my favorite stuff that we get to see coming forward, and we have the opportunity to have a truly connected urban environment located where my husband and I opened our first office in 1994 in Loman's Plaza, which is kind of ironic, but the concentric circle
When it was
design.
hopping.
Pardon me?
When it was hopping.
When it was the spot back in 1994. The excitement of having the opportunity for workforce housing bonuses, LEED certified building bonuses, and an overall decrease in carbon footprint for our city is extraordinary. So this is why I wanted to be here, and it's exciting to be a part of it. I'm really proud of our staff.
Thanks. Maria?
Well, you all know this is close to my heart, so I'm sorry I'm not going to be here in November to second the motion, for the second reading, but there's a lot of hard work that went into this and a lot of planning that went into this. And Natalie and staff, you all have done a tremendous job, and you have walked us through this year after year. And I remember one of the pictures you showed was when we did the TOD presentation in the EOC, and my, at that time, 86-year-old dad, who was interested, came and was one of the residents that participated. I was a little disappointed, that we have our residents that say we don't do enough workshops, and we did a workshop of such importance and had such poor turnout from our residents. But I'm happy to say my dad did come, and what we see for the future of the city of Palm Beach Gardens, we are a bedroom community. We are a neighborhood community, and this is the only place to have any kind of density. But in order to have density of this kind, you have to have ways to move people in and out, and not by cars. It has to be done with mobility. It has to be done with Tri-Rail and Brightline and whatever other means we have. I don't think we're going to be seeing driverless cars all that soon, but having some kind of a circulator when you get off of Tri-Rail or Brightline, and having some kind of a circulator that will take you that 1 mile loop does lower our carbon footprint. Or maybe a workout from half a mile to a mile. And what you take in with that district, it's quite an amazing opportunity for work. We have our retail centers, we have our college, we have the courthouse, we have our center right here, we have the hospital. So if you want to make a city, keep a city and sustain a city, this is how you have to do it. And this has been very, very well thought out, and I appreciate all the work that has gone into this. And I'm sorry, like I said, I won't be here for second reading, but I will be happy to approve on first reading.
Very nice. All right, so I don't have any comments in addition to, so all your comments were well. We went through so much issue with the train, and even though we weren't a part of the lawsuits, our community voiced their opinion on this train ripping through the city. So one of the positions that I took on the train was instead of having the train come through our city at 80 miles an hour, we have the ability to capture that speed or reduce that speed by having a station here. So not only does it fit our vision and our mobility plan to move people as opposed to put more cars on the road, we have the ability to slow that train as it breaches North Lake Boulevard, stops at RCA, and then starts up again and may not be back up to full speed until it hits Donald Ross, which is out of the city. So it seemed like some of the people that argued they don't like the train coming through, when I put it to them like that, and realizing that it's coming regardless of anything, it's they're like, okay, yeah, that at least that makes sense. So feel free to use that, because that's why I've been pushing to, at least we get the train slower, we get to move traffic. So I'm in support of this, and I don't need to say any more on it. So I have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Rochelle, did I hear you? Okay, you're on mute again. You're on mute again. You're on mute again.
You're on mute, Rochelle.
Again. You're on mute. Somebody call her.
Hi.
Oh. Motion carries 5-0.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah. Okay, we have a quasi-judicial resolution 51-2020. Patty, would you please read the title?
Resolution 51, 2020, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, approving a site plan for minor utility electrical substation on a 4.8-acre parcel located within the residential district Parcel A in the Avenir Plan Community Development PCD that is generally located on the north side of North Lake Boulevard, east of Grapeview Boulevard, west of Bay Hill Drive, and south of Beeline Highway, as more particularly described herein, providing conditions of approval, providing waivers, providing an effective date, and for other purposes.
Okay, I'm going to open the hearing. Can we please declare any ex partes? I have none, other than I got a phone call from Don, and I did not talk to him because I was busy, so that's really not.
I do. I also got a phone call from Don, and I did speak with him.
Anybody else?
I got a text from Don, but we didn't get to connect.
I left a voicemail message that said I'm all good.
Right on.
And Don texted me too, so.
Okay, so we have a presentation. Name and address for the record, sir, and have you been sworn in?
I have been sworn in. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. For the record, Robert Beaulieu, Project Manager for Florida Power and Light, 700 Universe Boulevard, Juno Beach, Florida. And I appreciate the opportunity to go over the site plan with you this evening. The driver behind the substation, the driver behind the substation, the development of the substation, is the growth around the area, which is, the Avenir area as well as the surrounding communities. And in this, and also the substation also is very important for the electrical reliability of the community. So what this graphic is showing you is the red square is the approximate area where the substation is in the southwest quadrant of Avenir. And the yellow areas around the substation there are future residential development areas, and the green area to the west is the conservation area. And the transmission line will come into the substation from the west over the conservation area into the substation. This is the site plan. North is up. And one of the highlights, I think, of the site plan to point out is once you're in the substation property, around the substation electrical equipment, there will be a decorative 10-foot concrete wall. And actually, part of our request is a waiver for the height. We're asking to increase the height from 8 feet to 10 feet, which staff supports. It's decorative. It has decorative columns and caps. As you can see here, decorative gate. The gate is not see-through, so you cannot directly see in and see the electrical equipment. One of the things I wanted to point out, too, you'll notice a small structure in the electrical yard just adjacent to the driveway, is the relay vault. And the relay vault houses sensitive electrical equipment. And so we work with staff. We typically do a pre-constructed vault and we bring it in. So we worked with staff and we agreed to build the vault on site. So here, it's a very simple structure. And in fact, the 10-foot concrete wall will screen out most of the structure. So the only thing that you will ever see is the standing seam metal roof. You won't see anything other detail than the standing seam metal roof, which is proposed to be a silver color. I think probably the biggest element to the site plan is the buffering. How are we going to buffer this, from the community? And so, again, we worked very closely with staff on the landscape plan. We were discussing, some of the changes to plant species and also the ratio of mix of pines to shade trees to really try to, increase the density as much as possible. In fact, the point total of this landscape plan far exceeds what is required by the city. Furthermore, all of the plant materials, except for the hedge that goes right around the substation wall, they're native. So it's everything, but that is native, and everything is drought tolerant. So you could effectively turn off the irrigation in a year, and everything will do just fine. And so those are just close-ups of the buffer. So with that, that's just a brief overview of the substation site plan. If there's anything I can answer, I'd be more than happy to.
Oh, I don't think we have any questions of him right now, so we do have a staff presentation, and if that generates a question to call you, just be right here and we'll do it. So Brett? Who's doing?
Mr. Mayor, staff doesn't have any additional information unless you wish to see a duplicative presentation. Brett is on standby to present if you wish, but it's
agreed.
It's
and I don't have any questions on this particular.
I have one,
okay.
Just because of something that was said. The electrical power that's generated will go above ground over the conservation area, or does it go below ground into Avenir?
The transmission lines will come above the conservation area.
Does that generate any questions?
Well, then it goes underground going into Avenir.
Exactly correct. When the distribution comes out, it's all underground into the community, so you will not see anything. That is correct.
And how far over the conservation area does it travel?
How far over? Well, the conservation area is about 500 feet wide, so it traverses the whole width of the conservation area.
And I'm assuming all this is hurricane Category 5 poles. And
Absolutely.
Rochelle, does that help?
Yeah, there's no environmental impact from that.
In this development, all the environmental impacts were negotiated with the development of Avenir. So, with the substation and all that, that site was all mitigated before we purchased it.
I mean, the electrical impact from the electricity going above.
You're talking about the transmission. Well, right now, Florida Power and Light has submitted a permit modification through DEP we have to swap out some conservation easement lands to bring the transmission line in. So we're going to be swapping out some lands, so there's no net loss. In fact, there'll be a gain of conservation lands.
Okay.
All right, so I have no other questions, so right at this point, I'm going to close the hearing. Can I get a motion and second to approve?
I'll make a motion, we approve Resolution 51.
Second.
All right, so I'm assuming there's no further discussion.
Not unless they don't want power out there.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Additional quasi-resolution 52-2020. Patty, would you read the title, please?
Resolution 52, 2020, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, approving an amendment to the Banyan Tree Plan Unit Development PUD Phase 2 Site Plan and Major Conditional Use to allow a 175 student, 10,000 square foot daycare facility that is located at the northwest corner of North Lake Boulevard and MacArthur Boulevard, as more particularly described herein, providing waivers, providing conditions of approval, providing an effective date, and for other purposes.
So I'm going to open the hearing. I have no ex partes on this.
No.
Rochelle? Rochelle, are you on mute again?
What's that?
Ex parte?
I have no ex partes, no. Thank you.
Mark, I didn't hear you.
I'm
No, I
having
have no
trouble
expertise.
hearing
Just
sometimes.
drove through the property, but that's not really an expertise.
Okay, it doesn't appear we have, do we have a no, do we? Petitioner presentation?
She's on Zoom.
Oh, sorry, Nicole, you're online. I'm looking there.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am, go for it. You're up.
Excellent. Thank you. For the record, my name is Nicole Plunkett with Kotler and Hearing, 1934 Commerce Lane, Suite 1, Jupiter, Florida, 33458. And yes, I have been sworn in. Tonight, we're presenting to you for Resolution 52, 2020. Our request is requesting approval of a PUD amendment with a major conditional use to provide for 10,000 square feet of a daycare facility, which can host 175 students, just over 6,000 square feet of play area, and there are 3 waiver requests for tonight, which I'll go through. Our applicant is North Lake Place 2 LLC. Robert Dizelle is the property owner, and we have worked with Robert on this project for quite a long time. He's put together an excellent group of a project team, and we're really proud to present this project to you tonight. The location of the project is located at the corner of MacArthur Boulevard and North Lake Boulevard, just to the east of I-95. The project itself is within phase 2 of an overall Banyan Tree PUD, which consists of 3 different parcels, 3 different phases that you see on the screen. Our specific project is 3.87 acres, and we identify it as phase 2 of the Banyan Tree PUD. Just to the west of the property, so that you can get an idea of some of the items around the property, just to the west, we have the blood bank. And then within phase 3, there are a couple of different uses, including a vacant bank and a restaurant and a number of office and condos as well. To the north is the Lake Catherine community, and we've worked with the Lake Catherine community previously on the project, and we did meet with them about a month and a half ago virtually to speak with them before the Planning and Zoning Board. It's something that's been really important to us to keep them informed because they are directly adjacent to the property, and we just want to keep them in the loop with everything that's going on. A little bit of background on the property itself. Back in 2015, this came through City Council, and it was a vacant piece of property. The approval, Robert Dizelle came through here with 3 buildings. You see the 2 buildings just adjacent to North Lake Boulevard has a mix of retail, restaurant, and medical. Now those 2 buildings were built and completed, and hopefully you've had a chance to visit there. They have some excellent restaurants within the facility. And the 3rd building to the north was originally approved as a 10,000 square foot building, single story, that had a similar mix of uses. And it never got built. The building pad is there, but it never got built. You as a city council, you see so many projects that come through to you every single month. And you know that every day our economy changes, the times change, and the right mix of uses for a site can change. And that's exactly what happened here. Instead of building the originally approved plan, we have had an opportunity to incorporate a daycare use to this parcel. Now, Robert Dizelle, our property owner, also recently purchased these 2 properties down here in the phase 3 corner. And we're going to be working with him to develop a restaurant site plan, which will come to you hopefully in the future. So instead of putting in the restaurant retail right here, what we're doing is we're going to be pulling it up against North Lake, probably something similar to what we've done on our property. Now that's going to be a separate petition, but I want you to understand that we did consider many different uses for this parcel, but really the daycare use came in, and it was an excellent opportunity. And personally, we think that it's a great use for the surrounding community. Now, the particular daycare that's coming in here is called the Learning Experience. And our client, Robert Dizelle, is very familiar with the TLE. He has a piece of property called Palm Beach Marketplace off of Okeechobee Boulevard. If you've had a chance to visit down there, it has Nick's Diner, it has a very, very busy Starbucks, and he has a TLE on his property. And so he's very familiar with the functions of the tenant's needs, and what it needs to occur on the site to bring that tenant to his parcel in Palm Beach Gardens to make sure that it's a successful set of uses. So a lot of thought has been put into not only the use, but also the site plan and the surrounding adjacent areas as well. The last thing I want to note before I move on from this slide is in 2015, when the site was built, this buffer along the north side of the property was installed. It's about 25 feet, I believe, with a berm. And that buffer has been well maintained and continues to provide great screening between the Lake Catherine community and our parcel. Our parcel also has 2 methods of ingress and egress. One of them occurs off of North Lake Boulevard, and the second one occurs off of MacArthur Boulevard. We are not touching either of those during this petition. We will continue to maintain those, and they will continue to be a method of vehicles coming in and out of the site. We are not touching those during our petition. A little bit about the Learning Experience. It first opened in 1980, and the age range of the children that they take in their facilities range from infants to kindergartner age. They do not teach kindergarten, but they take up until kindergartner age. They have over 450 TLE centers that are currently open or under development in the United States. And if you take a peek at their website, they really do take a lot of pride in coming up with all of the details, making sure that everything is so detail specific, all the way down to the design of their building and the policies that they have in place for their students. So this is a daycare facility that truly puts the needs of the children first, and the design and the safety methods that go into it are just so well thought out. A couple of the safety and security methods that they have is that they have a key fob that's required to gain entry into the buildings, cameras in each classroom, and also their fenced play areas are strategically designed for different age groups and different needs. The proposed site plan tonight in front of you, again, is a 10,000 square foot, one-story daycare facility with a just over 6,000 square feet of play area. So you've got your main entrance that either occurs off of MacArthur or it can occur off of Northlake, one way or the other. They're both there today. We're maintaining both. The site currently has two-way circulation, and we're going to continue to maintain that. So you have full two-way circulation through the site. An advantage to that is any of the patrons who visit the site today, they're familiar with two-way. So we're going to continue to use that method through the site to allow for positive wayfinding. They're familiar with it, and it's something that we wanted to continue with that. The orientation of the building was intentional. We placed the building so that the entrance to the daycare in and out is on the south side of the building. And there's a couple different reasons we did this, but one of the main reasons was to provide the entry and exit on the interior of the site. It's a safety method that kind of like an eyes on the street, that that you have the method coming in and out of the site. There's only one way in, one way out, and it's key fob related. So the security of the building is very intense for coming in and out. All of these doors along the north and the east side are emergency exit only. And this is something that the TLE has on all of their centers, or the majority of their centers. They have emergency exit fenced in areas for students if they need it, but it is never used if it's not an emergency. You can also access the daycare from the interior, and this door remains locked with key fob access for the teachers coming in and out. The play area is broken down into two different areas. You have the children that are a bit older have a larger play area with a splash pad. The children that are a bit younger have a turf area with age-appropriate equipment split up into each section. The compactor currently exists on site today, but it exists down in this location just to the south where you can see my cursor. The advantage of our property owner, Robert Dizelle, adding to the site and having a site that's already there is he already knows the needs of his tenants. So what he's identified is that the compactor area, which includes a recycling area, is not sufficient. The recycling area for the cardboard is not sufficient for the needs of the current tenants today. So what we've done is we've enlarged the compactor area to allow for a properly designed recycling cardboard area, and everything is going to function a bit more efficiently and effectively, which will hopefully help make things nice and easy when trucks come in and out to unload and load. Another reason that we placed the compactor in this area, and keep in mind this is a compactor, not a dumpster, so the compactor is going to hold the smell in, it's going to compact, and they also have a identifying feature which alerts the company when it's time for them to come and pick it up. So they've got all these methods in place, all these policies, and again, it's been functioning on site, so they're going to maintain these things moving ahead. Another reason that we placed it here is the adjacent blood bank has a loading zone in this area, and really we wanted to prevent trucks from having to come in and maneuver inside of the site. We didn't think that that was a safe thing to do. So with this location, they're able to maneuver in and out to get what they need from the compactor and safely maneuver around the site without having to go through the site. We've sent this concept over to SWA, and they have approved the location along with staff. And safety, we're introducing children to the site, and we worked very, very closely with the police department, Palm Beach Gardens Police Department, and it was a pleasure working with them because they really got us thinking about things to make sure that we did not leave any stone unturned with the design of this site plan for incorporating children. Walking quickly through here, I wanted to pick up a couple of things to make sure that you saw some of the safety measures that are in place and that have been designed. Starting at the entry off of MacArthur, we have the paver entry treatment, which is there today. We're going to continue to maintain it and keep it, but really it provides a gateway to alert drivers that they're entering a slower area and to slow down. There are a number of stop signs and around the site today, which we're going to be keeping, but we're also going to be adding a couple of caution, watch for children signs, both at this entrance up here and then for drivers coming up from the North Lake entrance to provide a visual cue that there are children in the area and to alert them to slow down. Paver banding has been incorporated on the eastern and the northern drive aisles. Now this paver banding, the purpose of it, of course it's decorative, it looks pretty, but the main purpose of it is to provide traffic calming for those vehicles traveling on the north and the eastern sides. Again, another method to slow those vehicles down. When your vehicle comes to hit it, you feel it and you see the visual difference between the asphalt color and the paver color. So a couple of different reasons that those paver bands will help slow you down. The paver banding is also incorporated along the main drive aisle for the daycare as well to help slow down vehicles. We already spoke about the compactor area, the impact bollards. There are two areas that we've added impact bollards. They were strategically placed in locations that both our applicant and the police department and staff felt were necessary. We've added them just to the west of the play area to protect between the parking and the play structures. And then we've also added two impact bollards just at the main entrance, just as an extra measure of security. And the last thing I want to point out on this security plan is that we've identified 18 pickup and drop-off spaces directly along the south side of the main entrance. There is signage that identifies these spaces. These spaces are also a little bit larger in width than the other spaces on site. We've got 9.5-foot wide spaces throughout this center. These spaces are 10 feet in width, just to provide a little bit of extra room. Parents are unloading and loading their children into their cars for the drop-off spaces. And I believe in this petition, the one on record for tonight, that these spaces are 9.5 feet. And it was brought up by Mr. Hansen at the Planning and Zoning Board last month that he would also like to see these widened to 10 feet. And we have agreed to do that. We've revised the plans and I just emailed the plans over to Samantha and Planning and Zoning today. So they do have it in their department and we will be submitting those plans to permit hopefully next week. And moving ahead to safety measures, we talked about the safety measures outside. I just wanted to show you that the TLE has thought of everything. They have the safety measures inside. They've also come up with a whole set of safety measures and COVID policies, which are on their website. But again, it's the facility is very well thought out. Vehicle circulation within the site. We wanted to see kind of what the typical routes would be, and this would help us with the design of it. And just quickly through this, the green route is the most likely vehicle route for those vehicles visiting the retail, restaurant, and medical buildings right down here. The orange route, we assume is going to be the most likely vehicle route for the daycare, considering we have the drop-off pickup spaces right here. And then the purple route, and this is if the site receives cut-through traffic, this is the path of least resistance. And really a vehicle, if someone's going to cut through to miss the light, they're most likely going to drive around here. There's no stop signs and they're going to be able to come through here, hopefully keeping them out of the interior of the site. But if that's going to happen, that's the route that we've identified. And again, just trying to leave no stone unturned with the design of this site, just really trying to investigate everything that could be happening here. One of the questions that we got when we were meeting with the Lake Catherine residents and a couple of the other meetings throughout the past year or so was, what is the comparison of the approved parking on the site today versus what you're proposing? And just for the record, I just wanted to go through the spaces. We park the entire site as an entire PUD. So it's not just for our parcel, it's for the entire PUD that you saw at the beginning of this presentation. The approved site required 558 spaces in that PUD. We provided 563. 228 within our particular phase, which allowed for a 5-space surplus. Our proposed site plan, we're required 543 spaces, and that's because the daycare parks at a slightly lower rate than the approved 10,000 square feet retail restaurant. And we are providing 554 spaces within the PUD, which allows for a 11 space surplus. So just a couple extra spaces above and beyond what is required for that site. A traffic study has been conducted, and the proposed site plan represents a decrease in daily traffic volumes compared to the approved plan. I also wanted to note that the traffic study accounted for the peak season conditions while school is in session. The 3D rendering of the site has been created to give you a visual reference of what we're trying to accomplish with this project. The landscaping was designed by Don Hearing, and the landscaping palette really fits in with the landscaping on site today. Our property owner, Robert Giselle, again, if you've had a chance to visit his site, either the one here or the one down in Okeechobee, he's very meticulous about his maintenance, and he just really wants to get involved with every aspect of it. So he's somebody that truly takes pride as a property owner within Palm Beach Gardens, and I really enjoy working with him, and I'm looking forward to completing this project and moving on to the next one right here in Palm Beach Gardens with him as well. The architecture of the building, the idea was that we didn't want this just to look like a daycare. We wanted this to fit in with the rest of the buildings on site. So we incorporated the original architects from the buildings, Keith Spina, to get some design ideas, to come up with these ideas, and really the colors, the shapes, the pop-ups of the roof parapets. A lot of these features are on the buildings just directly to the south of the project, and we wanted to make sure that everything fit in with this when we added in the architecture. We are asking for 3 waivers in tonight's request. The first waiver that we're requesting is we're required per code to provide pickup drop-off facility, including queuing, circulation, and parking spaces. Now, we have identified the 18 parking spaces with signage on our site, but we do not have a dedicated pickup drop-off facility, queuing, circulation drop-off area. And really, we just felt it wasn't necessary for the design and not necessary for the TLE as well. So the drop-off spaces are sufficient. And we have an additional 9 spaces just directly on the east side of the building, which they're not identified as drop-off spaces, but easily anybody could park there, hop on the sidewalk, and walk right into the main entrance. Staff is in support of this waiver request. The second waiver request we're asking for is the request to allow us the 1 tree per 1,500 square feet of outdoor play area. I know many of the new daycares that are coming in and that you've seen come through City Council, they're not looking to put vegetation in their play spaces. So instead that we've provide structural canopies and building awnings and shade trees and palms along the perimeter instead of putting them inside the play area. Staff is in support of this and is allowing approval on this waiver. The last waiver that we're requesting is that the drop-off parking stalls per code for the drop-off spaces are supposed to be quite large, 12 feet wide by 20 feet in length, which is actually a little bit larger than a standard handicap space. So we've asked for a reduction in the spaces. And again, like I explained earlier, the original waiver request was to allow 9 of those spaces at 10 feet wide and 9 of those spaces at 9.5 feet wide. But with this new revised plan and per the request of Mr. Hansen at Planning and Zoning, we have increased those spaces to 10 feet wide. So now all of the spaces are at 10 feet wide. Staff is in support of this waiver request as well. So I hope I covered everything. Again, thank you so much for your time tonight. I know it was a lot of information, but I wanted to make sure to really properly explain the project because we worked really, really hard on this with staff and with the police department, fire department, and everyone at the City of Palm Beach Gardens. So we're here to answer questions, and thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Nicole. Do we have a staff presentation from Samantha?
Mr. Mayor, we are
Again?
more than happy to present for information, but I think the applicant was extremely thorough. Staff
Agreed.
is recommending approval of Resolution 52, 2020. And staff is also recommending approval
Okay, so
of,
good
all
enough.
of all the waivers.
Understood. Let's close the hearing. Can I get a motion and second to approve so we can bring it back?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to second.
Okay, Rochelle's got the second. Do we have any questions or comments? Yes. Go ahead, Maria.
Nicole, question for you. Is it going to be staggered drop-off, since you said there wasn't a large drop-off area? Is it going to be staggered drop-off times?
Yeah, so with the drop-offs, and typically this is how it's been explained to me and how I understand it with the TLE. Typically with the drop-offs, we have the drop-offs from, I believe, 7 to 9 in the mornings, the weekdays, and they don't have a particular start time. So it's not like school, where school starts at 9 a.m. and all the students have to be there by 9 a.m. So this allows parents to drop them off on their way to work, or at any time within those drop-off and pickup times and beyond. They can drop off beyond that as well. So that encourages the staggering, and the parents can come and go as needed, not having a start time where all the students had to be there at once.
And just a comment for a little education for our current council. When this came up in front of council in 2015, it actually had a drive-through component to it. And we had a lot of residents that came, and it was approved by staff. We had a lot of residents that came and were against the drive-through component, and the council actually took that under advisement and then said, no, we were not going to have the drive-through component in that building. And I like the new use of this space. We need to keep our children safe and give them a great learning environment in today's time. So I am very happy to approve this.
Mark, how about you?
No, it's great, much better than a restaurant, and I know that you've talked to the residents behind you. The buffer is very well grown, so much better to hear kids screaming than people driving through a restaurant, for sure. And the only big question, of course, is traffic, and we all know that intersection has a lot of concerns with traffic. So the additional elongation of the two northbound turn lanes off of North Lake Boulevard to handle the added traffic is very important. So I appreciate that.
Chelsea?
Well, back when I was a candidate and knocking on doors, any young family that I got to talk to, they had very little to complain about in our city except for not enough options for childcare for ages 4 and under. And so the fact that we have 175 slots now available for people that live near this is wonderful. I love that it's 236 trips less of traffic than it would have been in a smaller building as well. Nicole, great job. I just have a quick question. I'm sorry if I wasn't listening on it because I thought I got it. The impact bollards, am I saying that right, that are going to surround the gate? Because on the agenda it was saying that it was white PVC. So can you tell me where the PVC ends and where the impact begins, or is the impact within all of the walls in case someone's car is erratic driving around the kids' playground?
Sorry, it's kind of hard to hear you, but I think
I'm sorry.
I think I heard it. You just wanted me to explain a little bit more about what the impact bollard is?
Yes, and is it around the entire circumference of the playground? Or is the playground,
No,
it's because it looked like on the agenda it was PVC?
Let me show you really quickly on my screen.
PVC and cars together make me a little concerned.
I can maybe help clarify that. The PVC, the white PVC, is actually the 8-foot fencing that surrounds the play area. The bollards themselves are likely concrete in nature, and they only exist, as Nicole is showing, on the west side where there are parking spaces that could cause conflict. So those 4 parking spaces on that west side will have bollards in front of the fencing to protect from crashes, and then 2 bollards in front of the main entrance on the south.
So there's 4 of the bollards that are right here, and there's 4 of them right here, and then there's going to be 2 of them down at the bottom, and they're going to come out. They're going to be constructed properly into the concrete, into the ground. They've got a way to construct them, and then they'll come up a couple of feet, and it'll just be you've seen them around Palm Beach Gardens, but they'll just provide an extra barrier if a vehicle is going to go past their parking spot, the car will stop right where the purple is instead of going through the fence.
And are there any other safety measures in that fence aside from just being made out of white PVC? If someone, has a problem at that corner and clips it or anything like that?
Not from a vehicle perspective. We do have a number of palms. So the palms, they do help when it comes to vehicles. We've got 2 trees down here. We've got a couple of palms up to the north. And when it just comes to safety factors outside of the vehicle, we did increase the height of the fence to 8 feet. It was originally 6 feet. We increased it to 8 feet to help deter anybody from trying to hop over it. But from a vehicle standpoint, we identified the areas that we felt most likely that if a vehicle impact would happen, it would happen in this area.
Okay. I wish there was a way to put those throughout the whole perimeter. I don't know what that would even look like.
I agree with Chelsea on that. If it's only a PVC fence, if somebody's coming around that other corner or loses control or something, PVC is not going to keep a car from going into that play area.
So
There's no buffer between the play area and the drive lane.
Rochelle,
Yeah.
let's finish with Chelsea, and then you can.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's all. No, that's okay.
No, I know it is okay. I just want to make sure it's organized
appreciate
because
it.
you're
I
on
wanted to
Zoom.
agree with her.
And you're on Zoom, and so is Nicole. Remember the hiccups we had
Mhm.
before?
Yeah, you're
Okay.
right.
Understood. Okay. And I think that's about it. So, but I know our police consultant, I trust our police immensely, and they know traffic and parking lots really well. And I know, Maria, I don't know if you were going to ask about it. Are there any electric vehicle charging stations going into any of the lots? We would like to know.
We're going to have 27 of them. We're not. I'm just saying. All right. Rochelle, you want to go?
Yeah, I apologize. I thought Chelsea had finished. I agree with Chelsea on that with the question on the ballards, and there's no perimeter separating that fence from the parking lot. Do we have other places, I guess, for staff in the county where there is a child's playground with no buffer space between the drive lane and the playground other than a PVC fence?
I'm happy to answer that question. We have an existing TLE in the city with a very similar design with the white PVC fence and bollards placed strategically. So our police department did review this proposed plan very carefully. Their recommendations to provide the bollards were strategic. They do so really with all commercial development wherever you have vulnerable areas where you could have penetration. The front doors are vulnerable, and the area where Nicole depicted previously, where the four were depicted. So all the other areas, surrounding it, the PVC, it's not a flimsy PVC fence that you buy from Home Depot. I mean, this is a construction grade. You have footers that are required per construction standards that are poured tight together as part of the panel. So there's poured concrete, they have to lay a footer. So it's a very different construction than just what you could see in a homeowner constructing a PVC fence. It's commercial grade PVC with posts and panels. And so I do want to emphasize that in addition to several portions that Nicole, we don't have the screen up, but we have several palm trees that have the additional protection around that. In addition to around some of the landscape area, you actually have the type D curve. So I think the police department strategically recommended the bollards in the correct place. I think if they felt that additional bollards were needed, believe me, they would have made that a point. So we're comfortable where the bollards are as recommended by our police department.
Thanks, Natalie. One question for Nicole. With respect to the trash compactor, that wall of the compactor area that butts up against the playground, how high is it? Is it possible for playground equipment to be thrown over the top of it? Or when that thing is compacting while the kids are outside playing, is that noise issue? What do we expect there?
Great questions. The wall that separates it is 8 feet tall in that area. So you have the 8-foot separation of height. That was something that we did discuss a lot with staff. And we thought of all the reasons. We asked all the questions to figure out, is this the right place for it? And it was decided that it was the right place. But one thing was that we did increase the height of the fence to 8 feet tall. And tenants, I do have the owner's rep on text, so I can find out about when the compactor does compact, because I don't know that off the top of my head.
Just while you're researching, Nicole, the other learning experience is right here at Fairway Drive. Rochelle, you've seen it. It's right near the Chabad, and it is another center that's in the middle of an existing parking lot with different retail. So I think all the safety precautions have been taken on that one, and they're just going to follow protocol on this one. Correct, Nicole?
Right, you're right. And the advantages of using a compactor over a dumpster include the lack of, the reduced amount of smell, the reduced pests. We have a pest system that come out, and a protocol to help reduce and keep everything as clean as possible. I just heard back from the owner's rep, and he said that it does run several times a day, but since it's completely enclosed and it's got its concrete wall enclosure as well, that it's just not loud enough to interfere with the children at the play area as they feel necessary.
So there's another concrete wall around the compactor that's inside the fence that's separating it from the kids.
And that's also a second.
Correct. So the compactor walls, the compactor itself is enclosed within an 8-foot walls, and the play area has 8-foot PVC fence around it. The two just happen to kind of go back to back in one area.
Perfect. No, that's fine then. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you haven't heard me yet, Nicole.
Oh, you got nothing to say.
I got nothing. Although you did answer, and it's always nice going last, but you did answer the question because, putting my council hat to my cop hat back on, I was curious on how tall the fencing was going to be, and you answered that to be 8 feet. So that's nice. And then apparently, if you're driving through there, because it's PVC, you're not going to be able to just view the kids playing. So any random person isn't going to be able to see a little boy or a little girl. They're going to be somewhat concealed. So, North Lake's a different animal than Fairway. We don't know what, we wish we had cameras on North, we probably do, but what travels up and down North Lake Boulevard comes from all over the south. What goes up to PGA and the Turnpike, whole different. So those kids, the heightened sense of security needs to be focused on there, and it looks like you did it. I think they brought up great points as far as, can a vehicle drive through this particular PVC? I don't know. So I don't know if random concrete pillars around there might give a little extra protection from a random vehicle. But if you're going to have the palm trees growing up, that's kind of the same thing. Usually a car won't drive through a palm tree unless it's going a high rate of speed, and they're not going to have a high rate of speed in that parking lot. So anyway, you answered all my questions. I would have never approved, I would have been iffy on a restaurant, and I would have been never approved on a drive-through. So I think the usage is good. And what time do they close?
I believe it's from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Okay, so the good thing is that we're giving that, we're addressing the traffic issue. There's not going to be much traffic during the day. And then we kind of give that back to the community after the business close, and then it comes back to a calming pattern before all the kids come and, go wild with baseball. So I think it fits perfectly, other than, being on North Lake. So anything on North Lake's not good. All right, so anyway, we're done with that. I'm going to close the hearing unless anybody's got something to say. Can I get a motion second to approve? Oh, I'm sorry, we already did that. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay,
All right.
you have to wait 3 hours.
Yeah, but look at if we started at 7, it would be
Maybe 10.
freaking 10. All right, so another quasi-resolution 53, 2020. Patty, would you please read the title?
Resolution 53, 2020, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, approving a site plan amendment for single-family home floor plans and architectural elevation themes, typical lot landscape, an entry feature, and a model home and sales center for La Terre at Avenir, Residential Pod 2, Site Plan Number 1, within the Avenir Plan Community Development PCD that is generally located on the north side of North Lake Boulevard, east of Breakview Boulevard, west of Bay Hill Drive, and south of Beeline Highway, as more particularly described herein, providing conditions of approval, providing an effective date, and for other purposes.
Okay, I'm going to open the hearing, declare ex partes. I have none. Anybody else? Rochelle, we can't see you.
I have an
Yeah,
ex parte. I spoke
yeah.
with Ken earlier today. Sorry, Rochelle.
Go ahead. Mark, finish.
I'm finished.
I have an ex parte on the 8th with Ken Tuma.
Chelsea? Mrs. Maria? Okay. All right, petitioner presentation, and you got 3 minutes. Thank you, Ken. for coming.
Ken Tuma with Urban Design Studio. My address is 610 Clematis Street, West Palm Beach, Florida, 334. 18's my home, 01. But I will be thorough, but not extremely thorough. Is that okay?
Yes,
and
sir.
we'll keep this moving forward. So good evening here. I'm here this evening on behalf of K-Hop.
Ken, you were sworn in, correct?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I was sworn in, Madam. So in regards to tonight, I'm here on behalf of K. Hovnanian, and this is an architectural request for Avenir. K. Hovnanian has purchased lots within Avenir in Parcel 2. I'm fortunate to have with me this evening Norman Lee, sitting to my right. Norman is K. Hovnanian's in-house architect who has made this process, and I think your staff will agree, working with staff, very easy and collaborative by nature because they have in-house architect who's very skilled, and Norman can answer any questions that you have about architecture. So the site that K. Hovnanian has purchased is identified in red in the oval in front of you. They've purchased pod number 2 in Avenir. This is the site plan which you have already approved. There are 92 homes. They are in 60-foot wide lots by 140 feet deep. What is in front of you this evening is the upgraded entry feature. As you recall, during the initial approval, we kind of get like a normal, boring entry feature approved, and this is actually the detailed part of it. And then we'll have architectural models. There's typical lot landscaping, and also the model row for the proposed project. So the entry feature is the first part of the presentation. This is the entry feature. I'm not going to attempt to present the name of the community because I don't want to say it wrong. But we have, as you come into the community, you'll note in front of you the silver Bismarck palm in the front, and then you have the entry feature. The entry feature is about 20 feet long, and then it's mix of course, oolite, which is required in all the entry features in Avenir, and then there's a ledge stone on the bottom. And then a couple things to note here, because it's important, because it ties into all the architectural designs. Norman has done a really good job. There'll be ledge stone that will be part of the homes. There'll be stucco, board and batten, which are part of the entry feature. This is a 20-foot high entry feature with a stainless steel or with a standing seam roof made out of copper. The large brackets. Then you'll notice another entry feature behind it, kind of mirroring it, but about half the height. And then the entry sequence itself. Here on the left-hand side, upgraded landscaping. The area in the rear is actually a park area for the community, so that's the reason why it's green. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see the royal palms as they march into the community. The entry has been upgraded with a more decorative gate since you saw it from its initial approval. This is a little top view or a plan view of what's occurring from the gate and entry feature. And then here you can see the entry feature itself in a section view. Again, 20 feet long, ledge stone, oolite. The letters are made 1-inch thick letters that will be added to the feature, and then the column and the lighting and all the other entry features that are an important component of the entry. The model homes themselves, there are 7 models on these 92 lots. So that means there's 7 different floor plans. And then there are 4 different architectural elevations. So you have 7 different floor plans, and then you have 4 different architectural elevations for a total of 28 choices within these 92 lots. And then on top of that, there are 5 different color schemes associated with each one. So there's, and Norman will know the different type of color schemes, but there are 5 different color schemes which will allow a significant diversity as you go through this community. There's also anti-monotony, which I'll get into the details a little bit later, but the anti-monotony is similar to what you've seen in other portions of this project, where you can't have the same floor plan, you can't have the same elevation next to each other or across the street, and you can only have 3 of the same floor plans adjacent to one another. But we'll get into that in a little bit. First thing, a couple quick things about the different elevations that are available. I'm going to show you a couple different models, but really the idea here is to show you the elevations. This elevation is in the Mediterranean theme of the elevation, so you'll notice the arches, the heavy stucco, the single hung windows, the barrel tile, the corbels. These are all defining terms within the Mediterranean style architecture, and then the solid doors also. The next type of architecture is the British West Indies style of architecture. Here you'll see the shutters. You'll see the windows here, the porch, the brackets on the garage. You'll also note as I flip through these that all the garages are very different looks depending on the style, and the shutters and the corbels throughout the area. This also gives you an idea of the landscaping. We did remove the street tree. The street tree here is a southern live oak, but if we put the tree, you can't see the house. So, and then on each house, there'll be a shade tree in the front and an accent tree, and I'll walk through that. Boy, already done with my minute. So, and this one is the Florida vernacular. The Florida vernacular is the historic Florida look, the board and batten look. And then you can see the large brackets, the board and batten, again, kind of tying back to the entry feature where you have all those components built within that entry feature. On the left-hand side, you can see a shade tree. Here's an accent tree. You'll notice that the windows, and one of the key things about the Florida vernacular is the doorway is made out of glass compared to the Mediterranean, which is a solid door. And here is the tropical modern. This is a kind of a newer look on the Hartwell model. Here, the ledge stone is stacked up along the house all the way around on some key areas. And then here is where the water table is made out of that stone. You'll notice the clean, contemporary look of the model, and then, of course, then the glass door. So a very clean look, contemporary lines, and with that stacked stone. And then here's another look. The purpose for this is to show what an elevation would look like in a 2-story product. Again, the Mediterranean look, the arches, the corbels, the windows, the solid doors, the barrel tile roof. This is the tropical modern. Another look at the tropical modern, stacked stone, very clean windows, clean lines, clean edges, and then the glass entry door. Here's a view of the British West Indies model, just a different look at the same different elevation. So this is a streetscape of what these would look like. This is the actual streetscape, and the distance between the buildings is a setback between the two. The idea here is just to show you kind of what a streetscape could potentially look like. So I'm going to walk through 2 models, and then I'll be done. I'm going to walk through those models in detail. One, elevation. I'm going to show you a couple how the floor plan, and then also landscape architecture that is a component of it. So this is the Elsner model. You can see the design. You can see the trees in the front. And the next slide is looking at that model in all 4 different types of elevation. So remember, we have 7 models, so there's actually 28 of these things, but I'm going to show you 2. So this is the Elsner model, a 1-story model. On the left-hand side is a tropical modern. You can see those clean lines, the stacked stone, the entry window, and the entry door made out of glass. And then as you move to the right-hand side, you'll see the Mediterranean look, the arches, the single-hung window, the barrel tile, the corbels, this scored stucco look on the below. Here's the Florida vernacular, the board and batten look with the large brackets, glass entry doors. And then over here is a British West Indies model. This one has Bahama shutters on it with the corbels allowing for that neat, unique look. So then what does it look like on the side? So in front of you is the side elevation of the elevations that can be seen. These are the enhanced elevations. So if you're driving down the street and it's a corner lot or you have a large separation, you look in, you get the opportunity, you'll see the back of these. So this on the right-hand side is the British West Indies elevation for the Elsner model, and you can see the enhanced elevations with the shutters coming all the way down the sides, the windows. This house is actually a side-load garage, so that's what you're seeing over here. And this is a tropical modern, same view, just a different look and different elevation with the stacked stone breaking up the massing. And then finally in the rear, this is the rear. So if you have a lake, when you're seeing back of house to back of house, the rear elevation is increased also. In this case, it's increased with scored stucco and that Mediterranean look. Again, so each excuse me, each elevation has its own design. The plant palette, as you know, in Avenir is a very large plant palette within Avenir. The same concepts for Avenir on the landscaping allows a choice. So Norman's customers, and Tom I know who's on the screen, their customers will have a choice. It's a select choice of what those are. For example, on the left-hand side are the shade trees. On the right-hand side are the accent trees. So what Norman and what Tom will do is they will have the package. Let me show you in plan view what that looks like. So in front of you is this Elsner model, this one-story model. On the left-hand side is the standard lot. And what the landscaping package looks like on a standard lot. Required to have a southern oak tree in the front. That's part of the street tree program. And then this is this is a shade tree. That shade tree can be that oak, Japanese blueberry, depending on what the package they pick is. And then you'll have these accent trees and the additional shrubs to block the AC units, the shrubs in the back, another large shade tree in the back. You'll have a cluster of palms on both sides and shrubs down both sides. So a really heavy landscape package on this, consistent with what you've seen in the other areas within Avenir. The middle one is the same design, but what happens if there's a pool? We suspect there'll be a high percentage of houses that will have a pool. The pool here I identified on the screen. You'll notice that there's additional hedges being added, some additional landscaping to help buffer that pool. The front landscaping remains the same. And here on the right-hand side of your screen are actually two sections. They're intended for that enhanced section, meaning if it's a street corner where we had the enhanced architecture, well, we also have enhanced landscape, so it's going to be a very beautiful look. So if the street happens to be right here, you'll notice compared to the other drawing, the enhanced landscape on the side. So you have additional accent trees. We've added a couple palms. We have hedge material going all the way down the side, and we've also added another shade tree in the rear of the lot here. And that's consistent if it's either right-hand enhanced side or left-hand enhanced side, just depending on what model you're in. So that's the landscape for the Elsner model. Let's walk you through one more, and I'll go much quicker this time. This is the Oakton model. This is the Oakton model in all four elevations, starting on the left-hand side, the tropical modern, again, that stacked stone, carried up to the second floor element. You'll notice the glass door, the Mediterranean with the curved arches at the entry has a porch feature in this case, a solid door, single hung windows, and of course the barrel tile. This is the Florida vernacular, that board and batten look, glass door. The board and batten is carried all the way up to the second floor. You'll see some of these awnings here, and then the British West Indies has the definitive shutters and the corbels, and then you'll see these brackets on all the garage doors to kind of give it just a unique look. And you'll note that on several of these there are porches associated. Well, on all this model there are porches associated with it. So this is the side elevations of the models. Same concept before. I'm just going to jump through this one, but you can see the enhancements throughout the side elevations. The plant palette is the same. Again, the choice of trees is on the screen in front of you. On the landscape plan, the way it works, we have a big chart on there, but I figured doing some pictures might be a little easier. So basically the tree choices for the shade trees are the pigeon plum, Japanese blueberry, southern mag, or southern live oak. And then the accent trees are the buttonwoods, crepe myrtle, the tabs, and the other items here identified on the screen. So this is the landscape plan. Again, street tree in the front, southern live oak, shade tree in the front right-hand side adjacent to the porch. Lots of understory and landscape. I didn't really articulate that on the last one, but there's understory and landscaping all along the front. And then accent tree on the side, hedging material to the air conditioning units, and then hedging material starting where you can see it again. So the idea is use that material where people can actually see it. There's really no need to have it when those houses are side to side, because two things happen. One, you can't see it, and two, it doesn't get a lot of sun, so it doesn't grow that well. And then here is the pool option, additional hedging. And then this is the enhanced side where you have the accent tree, and the additional shade tree in the rear. The anti-monotony standards, as I said a little earlier, so basically the anti-monotony here is you can't have the same elevation, that same look. It can't be a Mediterranean look next to each other or across the street. You can't have the same model, more than 3 in a row. And then on this one, you add in the painting concept here. Let me find it, make sure I get it right. So on the color packages, in those color packages, they can't be next to each other either. So Norman has to really think about this when he's going through it and make sure that he has his chart really well thought out, because he can't put more than one elevation next to each other, and he also can't have the same paint color next to each other. So he's got to really work on that. So does Tom, who's up in the sky up there. On the model row, there is a model row proposed. That model row will have a parking lot. There'll be 3 models proposed. K. Hovnanian's proposal and how they work is they actually have the residents come into the first house. So there's not a separate trailer. On some of the other developers in this community, there's a separate trailer. K. Hovnanian uses their first house and brings it up to a commercial standard within their garage, if I'm correct, Norman, to be the sales center. And this is a look of what that sales center will look like with the landscaping and the associated parking lot with it. And with that, I will keep my presentation thorough. Happy to answer any questions you may have. We have Mr. Lee here, of course, who is very detailed, and Mr. Tom and Mr. Kevin are both on the video conference and can answer any questions that you have. Mr. Borkenhagen, Mr. Piscatelli. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Natalie, so I'll just come back to you. Do we have a staff presentation on any of this?
No, Mr. Mayor, staff is recommending approval of Resolution 53, and we too appreciate the collaboration that has occurred with between Norm and Joanne. It's been great, and we appreciate Ken's presentation, which was thorough. So no further staff comments.
As usual. All right, so I'm going to close the hearing. Can I get a motion and second to approve?
I'll make a motion. We approve.
I'll make a second.
Chelsea's got the second, so bring it back for discussion, guys. Any questions of staff or Ken?
I do want to say that's some of the best anti-monotony I've ever seen. It's really impressive. We need that. It's like the neighborhood I live in, people walk into, if you have a neighbor if you have someone visiting, the chance of that person showing back up in your house is about 0 because all of our houses are so identical. So I always pay attention to the anti-monotony. I'll tell a story. I'll tell a story. Ken knows this from zoning about a year or 2 ago. My neighbor's mother-in-law was visiting, took the baby and the dog for a walk, and said, you know what, I'm just going to run back in the house to relieve myself. Steps into the house, starts her business, and realizes she's in the wrong house. So when anti-monotony comes up, I pay attention. We don't want those stories anymore. So no, that's exceptional. Thank you.
All righty. Rochelle, any questions?
No, all my questions have been answered. It seems pretty self-explanatory. It's a beautiful community.
Yep. Agreed. Mark?
I appreciate the side elevations. That was something that was brought up in a previous PUD, and it looks nice. Starting price, home prices, do we have any idea where they're starting at?
I know Tom is here, and I would prefer if he would answer that. I do know what they are, though, if he's not available to speak.
I'm here.
Tom or Kevin, are you out there?
Yep. Good evening, board members, Mr. Mayor. My name is Tom Piscatelli. I'm the president of K. Hovnanian Companies. My address is 159 Honeysuckle Drive, Jupiter, Florida, 33458. And yes, I've been sworn in. So the pricing is going to range. We haven't finalized all the pricing, but it's going to range from roughly $675 to the mid-8s.
So kind of comparable to the rest of Avenue.
Right now, that's where we're thinking that where we're gonna come in.
Thank you. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, and also I did talk to Ken earlier just to confirm that there is access with golf carts and what have you. I'm assuming that the homeowners in this community are going to be wanting to travel around Avenir to the parks and to the Publix and what have you in golf carts, so there's easy access.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sand Hill, yeah.
Sand Hill, yeah.
Maria, any questions?
Comments? Norman, Tom, Ken, thank you. Keeping with the overall quality of the development, thank you very much. It's La Terre, is that correct? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's a little French. I got a little of that, I'm more Italian, but what are you going to do? I do appreciate that, and it looks very lovely. So thank you for the consistency in there, and also for, as Chelsea says, the non-monotony. Thank you.
I have no questions. It looks awesome. So having said that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Ken, Tom, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Items for council action, discussion, and items for interest, blah, blah, blah. So we moved it to the last.
If I may, I just want to make one quick comment, just to finish my thoughts on the budget. I don't do anything for political reasons. I'm on my first year of my last term, so I'm not up for re-election ever. So my thoughts on the budget is not, I don't suggest it because I'm trying to gain political favor or points, and nothing else I do up here is for that reason. So I trust all of you are the same, but I just want to make sure everybody understands my position on that. And I have nothing else.
That way, dude.
No, just make sure everyone knows.
Chelsea, do you have any, let me go over this because it's my most exciting time of the day. Items for council action, discussion, and interest of, or item whatever.
Yeah.
Do you have anything interesting to say?
I do. I really want all of us to participate in the Ignite the Fight 5K that our city is combining with Jupiter for the firefighters. It's a fundraiser. And
When is it?
It's the month of October, and it's on the city website. If you click on the city website, it's one of the first things that pops up. And it's very reasonable. All the money is for charity, and all you have to do is log in a 5-kilometer something. It could be a walk, a crawl, a row, or
You
whatever.
do it on your own, or are we all going somewhere?
Well, it's a virtual experience, so you can do it anytime in the month of October, but I would really like for maybe all of us to go out to the district park and do a socially distant 5K walk. Mark and I.
I'll walk.
Yeah, we're not
You know,
gonna,
I just-
I won't chase you, but maybe running would be fun, but.
I just bought an e-bike for us, and I've got two. One's on the way there. You know what an e-bike is?
Oh, yeah.
Mine's got 2 batteries, I mean, it's unbelievable. So,
Please wear a
Instead of
helmet.
walking,
Oh my
you're going to
goodness.
e-bike? Is that
yep,
it? Oh,
because it's badass.
I'm
So
going to
what-
ride my Peloton.
What date are
What?
we talking about?
Anytime,
get with
anytime
us.
in the month
We'll
of
all do it.
October.
I'll
Yeah,
bring my bike.
So, I'll send an email out, and anyone else on city staff that would like to join
And
us.
if Arlene's got hers, we'll bring that. All right, so Rochelle, you got anything?
Nothing tonight for me.
Maria?
nothing for me.
Okay, so I do have something. This is something that's been all, it's just going to be easy. Sorry. Something that,
This is unusual.
it's not as easy as you think. I don't want to bring it up, but this is something that was never on my radar at all. And all of a sudden, I got a call from actually a friend of mine who lives in North Palm, big-time boater, on the water all the time. And when he comes through the city of Palm Beach Gardens, they get their bait, they get their gas, they refuel, they get beer, and then they hit it. Because if you're fishing for wahoo or whatever, you gotta go out there as the sun's coming up. So he brought it up to my attention. He's like, why can't we get beer or alcohol in Palm Beach Gardens until 8 o'clock in the morning? He goes, North Palm's not like that. Jupiter's not like that. The county ordinance is not like that. I let it go. I did bring it up to Ron. I just kind of let it go. Oddly enough, in the last couple weeks, I've had like a bunch more calls, and I don't think my buddy started anything. And then I started thinking about it. We have the marina at PGA that people are going to their boats to get in the water early. We have even the unincorporated area on Prosperity, Ellis and Wilson, so we do have water. We have the people coming in from the Acreage, Wellington, and Loxahatchee, and Palm Beach Country Estates that are coming through Gardens. So I'm thinking we have a lot more boaters coming through the city than we realize. And they can't get alcohol in the morning when they're getting their bait and stuff like that. So I brought it up to Ron and Max and asked them to look at it. And of course, I have to bring it up to you guys. Can we, if you guys are comfortable, and I think our ordinance is we can sell alcohol until 3 o'clock in the morning, which I'm not comfortable with as a previous traffic cop, but I'm not trying to change the world. I think if we're accommodating, because we're a community, and if we can look at what other communities are doing as far as alcohol sales, so I think if we're really, we could change something that is specific to a certain group, which would be mostly the boaters at 6 a.m. So how do you guys feel about it?
Well, what is your, well, first we have to hear from Max and Ron, and secondly, what are you thinking? We start selling beer at 6 o'clock in the morning?
Same thing all the other cities are doing.
And is it okay that boaters take out, I'm not even gonna go there.
We'll go somewhere with it.
I know.
Where would they buy? Where would they buy it at that hour of the morning in the city?
I'm sure it's not alcohol. I don't know if we want to, first off, me personally, I doubt the liquor stores are open at 6 a.m. But, you know, if they're getting they're filling their boats and they're stopping in at a gas station, they're probably going to grab some beer so they can go. And I'm not looking at I don't know what the rest of the county's doing. I am bringing it up because I've had multiple phone, it doesn't affect me, but I've had multiple phone calls, so I think maybe if we can ask Max to look at it and see what the other cities are doing, because why do we need first, and it's not revenue, but if they're going to the marina at PGA, which we all know there's hundreds of boats in there and they're going to be expanding it, using that for an example, why do they need to go to North Palm or Jupiter if they can get beer at PGA and Prosperity?
Max, do you have any comment on that? I mean, I don't really have an opposition. I don't know if there's anything we need.
The city has the authority to regulate the hours of sale of alcohol within its borders. The unincorporated county, I believe, the mayor's right. I think they require you to stop selling on Sunday morning at 4 a.m., Saturday night, Sunday morning, at 4 a.m., and then you can start selling again at 6. And I think it's for that. It's largely, I think, for that reason. The liquor stores aren't open. None of them are open at that hour typically, but it's convenience stores, things like that. If you go down North Lake, you know, there's as you get into North Palm, there's right as you go over the little bridge there's a bait shop and a fueling station where people take their boats, and that place is open early in the morning, and you can buy beer there and ice and stuff like that. And so they either have to get it in the unincorporated county, or they have to get it in North Palm or Jupiter. So if they haven't thought about it, or they're stopping to get fuel here on the way, then they can't then get the beer. You know, because beer and fishing go together like water and fish, I suppose. So there's no legal impediment to do it. It's really just whatever the council's desire is.
And they can't.
It's a simple ordinance.
They can't, as they're launching their boat, even though the marina has, you know, a snack shop or whatever where they're selling beer and all that stuff, they can't do that. So I raised my kid on the water, so I know a lot about fishing, and even though I wasn't very good at it, but you have to be out early. So the questions are legitimate. You know, there's nothing wrong, there's nothing illegal with bringing beer while they go fishing. I think we need to, I'm not going to try and influence you either way, but I think we need to respect their, and have consideration to what they want to do. People aren't going, if you can't buy beer at 8 o'clock in the morning, they're not going to be on the water until 10, you know?
They can plan ahead. What happened to planning ahead? If you know you're going out on the water the next day, you have your stuff ready.
I said the same thing. I'm like, why can't you buy it the night before? And that's not the issue. The issue is a lot of people when they drive, you know, if you live in Loxahatchee or Wellington or Loxahatchee, you're not around any sort of convenience store there either. So the question is can we be accommodating to mirror what most of the county is doing? So which is predominantly our fishing community, if they have a boat here, if they live here, and they're traveling through here, why? For me, I think it's an inconvenience to go to Jupiter and buy your by whatever, to go back to the PGA Marina and launch your boat, or go to North Palm. I think it's reasonable, which is the key word here, to look at what everybody else is doing. I have no issues on changing the stop of the sale of our alcohol, which is 3.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah, sure. Please.
We asked the city attorney to consider drawing up some paper, getting some research done. We can talk to residents in the meantime and any of the businesses in the city between now and next month, and if there's no opposition, then we can certainly entertain it. If that's something that is legally sufficient, I'm fine.
Yeah, and I don't want our personal views to be involved. If you don't fish, don't be saying, well, no, I'm not doing it because I'm not comfortable
I
with
know
it.
nothing about fishing at
Right.
6 o'clock in the morning. It'd be like if I wanted to talk to you about hydration for marathons, you probably would be like, you just do whatever you need to do. And I don't know, so I'd love for Max to educate me and
Yeah, it's a reasonable
have some
request.
comparisons.
Most of the county does it, and they do get out early and fish. I brought it up because I've been asked to several times now. I said I would. It's not
I only
affecting
golf at
either.
6 o'clock in the morning, so I don't really care about people buying beer. I mean, whatever. So if we can just find
Like
out
to
how to do it.
See
and-
who's doing what, who else is doing what, and what the county really is doing.
Well, it's not just the county, but I think Jupiter, North Palm, the greater
That's
Palm.
what I mean, which cities are doing what, which regulations are in place where?
Well, I know the county is, probably North Palm, Riviera Beach, most likely Jupiter. They're a huge
So
fishing
most likely
community.
is not an answer to my question. My question is who actually has it on their books to start at 6 in the morning?
So to piggyback on what Mark said,
Right.
Max, if you would be so kind as to come up with some reasonable information and data for us for the October meeting, not the September meeting, we would appreciate that.
Yeah, you all agree with that?
Yes.
That's all I'm asking. Okay.
I'll find out the hours of the surrounding communities and what is kind of the general practice especially in the voting communities in the county.
All right, city attorney report. You guys ready for that?
I don't have one, sir.
And he doesn't have one. Ready to adjourn?
Please,
Good night, everybody.
good night.